is world famous for its stately homes. And when it comes to food, our country houses were the tastemakers.
Curry and cockles, it's an absolute first for me.
In this series, we'll sample delicious dishes.
They look wonderful, Mary.
And enjoy the lavish hospitality that these homes were celebrated for.
It looks absolutely stunning.
I'll show you how to cook tasty modern recipes inspired by the history of our great houses.
This is actually Napoleon's chair from Waterloo.
Mind you, I could do with a cushion.
Join me as I meet the families who own these exceptional homes.
The best thing about the staircase, obviously, is going down on a tray or on your bottom.
And find out what it's really like to live,
That looks quite saucy.
work,
Oh, it's very like cutting a hedge.
I think you're better at baking.
and party in the nation's most beautiful stately homes.
I'm not going to drop it.
This week, I'm visiting Scone Palace, Scotland's crowning glory,
They were crowned on this very stone.
where I get to feast and party like a royal. This is your invitation to dine at some of Britain's grandest tables in some of the most beautiful houses in the land. I'm in Scotland, just outside Perth, and approaching Scone Palace, world famous as the crowning place of Scottish kings. For over 400 years, this extraordinary site has been home to the Murray family, now the Earls of Mansfield.
Gosh, this is a pretty impressive approach. Oh, with a crest above. How grand is that? This is amazing. It is enormous.
It's my great pleasure to join the family for a few days in the build-up to one of their renowned dinner parties, culminating in some traditional Scottish reading.
Hello, Mary.
There we
Fantastic
are.
to meet you. Welcome to Scone.
Just a minute. You look far too young to be the Earl of Mansfield.
I am not the Earl of Mansfield. I am the Earl's son, Viscount Stormont. William. Please call me William.
Hello, William. That's lovely.
Now come on inside.
Brought the sunshine for you.
Yes, you have. Now, let me
Being part Scottish, I do know Scone Palace stands on one of the most significant sites of Scotland's history. Once an abbey, Scone has seen the coronations of all Scotland's kings.
Now, yeah, welcome to our home. Now, I want to show you something special in here.
This goes on forever.
This is the Long Gallery, and this is where the kings processed to their coronation. So a very sacred and hallowed ground.
It is amazing how many kings were crowned here.
42, supposedly, but I believe there may have been many more than that.
So a very, very special palace.
Steeped in history.
Today, this is the home of William's parents, the 9th Earl and Countess of Mansfield. William and his 3 sisters grew up amongst these grand surroundings. And with such a royal history, I'm keen to discover how the family first came to live here.
Now, Mary, there's one thing in here that I particularly want to show you, which is this little picture of a man called David Murray of Gospety. He was the first man in our family to come to Scone, and he became the first Lord Scone in 1608 and was given the lands by King James I, having foiled a plot to kidnap and murder the king. And he was given the position of the king's cupbearer.
Cupbearer? What does cupbearer mean?
There was a ceremonial part to it, but also he had to guard against the king being poisoned. And this was a very dangerous time in Scotland.
And a brave chap, because if he took a mouthful, he'd die himself before the king, wouldn't he?
Well, he was rewarded well for his service.
Having proved themselves loyal servants to the crown, in 1776, the Murrays were promoted to the title of the Earls of Mansfield. Their footing with royalty was assured, and it paved their way for even further royal connections abroad.
So the second Earl of Mansfield, he was the ambassador to Louis XVI in France, just before the French Revolution broke out. This is our library.
Now, just a minute. Where are the books?
The books have been removed because we have our collection of porcelain here. But it's not our most precious thing. Our most precious thing is actually this table here, which was given to us by Louis XVI's wife, Marie Antoinette, who was a very close friend of the second Earl.
You do know people in the right places.
It went so far as the second Earl actually taught Marie Antoinette how to Scottish reel, how to dance.
Talking of reels, I haven't done one since I was very young, but it was Gay Gordon's and Strip the Willow, because I'm half Scots. My mum was Scots, and
Brilliant.
I'm very proud of that side.
Well, I hope you brought your dancing shoes, because we'd love you to join us.
Now, I'm a bit heavy-footed, but I'll have a go.
Don't worry, mate. I'll look after you on the dance floor. And it would be great for you to see the palace, you know, really alive in its full glory, lots of guests.
Sorry to interrupt. Coffee is now served down in the private sitting room. Lady Mansfield's down there waiting on you both.
Thank you very much, Jean.
Thank you.
Jean is our housekeeper, or really, we call her our butleress.
It's a very grand title.
Yes,
How
it
long
is.
have you had that title?
Oh, since the early 80s.
And what does that entail?
Everything. Cleaning, serving the public.
What Jean's trying to say is that she's in charge. the house, the palace wouldn't function without Jean. Thank you very much, Jean. We'll be down soon.
I'm heading from the public side of the palace to the Mansfield private quarters for coffee with William's mother, the Countess.
Hello, Mary. Great pleasure to welcome you here to Scone today.
Having heard about the family's close ties with royalty in the past, I wonder if these connections are still as strong today. Has the royal entertaining continued as the years have gone by?
Yes, it has. And the latest one, which was really good fun, was in 2012, when the Queen had her Jubilee. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, she came quite a lot because it was so near her own home, and she sort of loved Scotland.
I've always wondered, when you have something like royalty to stay, do they come with a huge entourage that you have to put up as well?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But with the Queen, it was quite large and quite a big thing.
They don't come with their own cooks, do they?
No, they don't. We have great fun choosing the menus and getting everything organised, and the royal household are very, very helpful, you know, just tipping you off. Her Majesty the Queen Mother loved any bird, but she didn't like salmon so much. And this is the menu when the Queen Mother came in September the 29th, 1978. We can see she had Earth's Benedict, Canard à l'Orange, duck, which we know that she liked, and then tarte aux pommes.
And this is also a visitor's book.
Yes.
I've always wondered, if royalty come or somebody very grand, do they put messages inside?
No, they just sign their name and date it. They just do it on one whole page of their own. That's that.
I'm in awe.
And when we have very special visitors, my parents-in-law started always asking them to plant trees. And if I take you to the window, we have a couple straight outside here. The most exciting and the oldest one is the one straight ahead of you. It's an oak, and that was planted by James VI and First of Scotland. I mean, that's quite some tree of quite some age. And to the right, we have a Swedish white beam planted by the King of Sweden. And then to the left, we have a Acer planted by the Queen in 1967.
And the river is the River Tay?
Yes, the Silvery Tay, one of the most famous salmon rivers in the world. We might have to take you down there for a spot of fishing. Might be a bit of fun.
I would love that. If we're going on a fishing trip, I'd better prepare something warming. And so I've availed myself of the butleress to lead the way downstairs. Jean, you've spent most of your working life here at Scone.
I've been here now on 40 years, and I've had a lovely time and got on really, really well with the late Earl.
You must have seen William growing up here.
Oh, yes. And he has turned out a very nice young man, very much like his late grandfather.
Goodness gracious.
Now,
That's a
it is,
range
isn't
and a
it?
half, isn't it?
Yes, it's not in use anymore, but it was. And the staff at that time had to get up at maybe 5 o'clock in the morning.
I would think so.
To get it all warm for the cook coming in.
And that was in Victorian times?
Yes.
And how many kitchen staff would be here in the heyday?
Well, at that time there was 40 staff. 28 worked in the house itself, and then we had 12 for the horses.
But when you came, how many were here?
5.
Only 5. You must have been run off your feet.
Yes, at times we were.
They call you the boss sometimes.
Yes, William does.
Does he?
Yes. But now I think it's time for you now to take over and
Well,
do your little bit.
I better get going.
Yes.
Let loose in this historic kitchen, I'm inspired to make a Scots classic. What better for a fishing trip than a warming broth?
So I've got a very nice chicken here, and I'm going to first of all cook the chicken. Then I'm going to cook the vegetables in the stock that I make from the chicken. In the olden days, they used to put the whole lot in the pot and have the vegetables overcooked, but I like mine just done.
So to start, lift the whole bird into a large pan with a few bay leaves, season well, and add water.
You really want to cover the chicken because it makes a lot of soup.
Bring to the boil, then simmer the chicken for an hour and a quarter. Then leave aside to cool while you get on with the veg.
I've got 4 leeks here that I've finely shredded, so in they go. Now that looks a lot of leeks, but they will lose their bulk as they're cooked.
Then add a couple of carrots for colour and a few sticks of celery.
Now for the unusual ingredient, prunes. They're a classic for Kokaliki, and north of the border, they always add prunes. Everything's in the pot now, and I'm going to simmer that until they're tender, and that'll be sort of 20 minutes, but keep your eye on it.
That gives me time to get on with the chicken.
So I've taken all the meat off, and then you have the 2 oysters either side. I reckon that's the cook's perk. And a bit of salt. That's pretty good. It's going to make a very good Kokaliki soup. So let's have a look at that. There's still a little bite in the carrot. That's how I like it. So in goes all the chicken.
It needs to be piping hot, and don't forget to check the seasoning.
That's a bit of all right. I was a bit nervous of doing that because they have very high standards in the Mansfield household, but I think it'll do nicely.
It's a thrill to be heading out with William and the family dog Pickles to the Tay. It's Scotland's longest river and world famous for the pursuit of the elusive king of fish, the magnificent wild Atlantic salmon.
So how many have you actually landed in your life?
Not as many as I would like, and it's quite tough.
Welcome,
Good morning.
Mary. Can I introduce you to my husband, Lord Matthew?
Hello, how do you do?
And this is Ian, our gilly.
Good morning.
Very.
Good morning, Mary. Pleased to meet you.
As Gilly, Ian Kirk runs all the fishing trips on the estate's 7-mile stretch of the Tay, where the family have enjoyed fishing rights since 1608.
Mary's going fishing.
But today, he's got me, a complete novice.
OK?
Yep.
Wonderful. Then on to the seat. You're good at this, eh?
I'm ready. Yes.
Right,
Yep.
and down we come. Wonderful.
Now, you really do look the part of a fisherwoman, but you don't have to worry. You won't accidentally catch sharks or anything, because there aren't any here.
We'll see, we'll see.
Are we ready?
I'm ready,
Let's
yes.
go and do it then, eh?
Whoa!
Bye-bye. She's very brave. It's
fantastic.
When you consider that she's decidedly over 21.
It's absolutely
To jump
fantastic.
into a boat like that and go tearing off upstream
It's
is really quite something.
Scotland is one of the few places where the Atlantic salmon are still thriving. And that's why people come. I get people here from America, Japan, Mexico, Australia.
Because it's the best.
Because it's the best. It's like St Andrews for golf. The River Tay is for salmon fishing.
Amazingly, the salmon in this river travel back from their Atlantic feeding grounds to breed in the very waters that they were born. They can leap an incredible 12 feet to overcome obstacles on their journey upstream. Being this clever, I don't hold much hope of catching one.
Now, I'm going to pay the line out for you. Want me to share the cast with you to begin with?
Yes, come on, let's
Right.
do it together.
Right, up, around, Back, 2, 3, tap. There you are. Well
Come
done.
along, friend.
Right. So, rod tip comes down. Now, this is a good spot because there's stones out here. The fish like to sit in here.
If I am lucky enough to catch a salmon, there's a good chance we'll have to throw it back. Here on the Tay, there are strict rules for catch and release that ensure salmon fishing will be enjoyed for generations to come.
Ah, wonderful. That was a good cast.
I'm much happier when you're near me. So, Ian, which of the fish can you take out of the river and which are the ones that you've got to leave in?
We at Scone Palace return over 90% of the fish.
Because you're interested in conservation.
Conservation is the key.
Ian tells me that in the 19th century, the 4th Earl of Mansfield, another William Murray, could see that overfishing was endangering the salmon population.
Back in 1852, it was all netting, 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 killing, killing, killing. The Earl of Mansfield decided, no, we can't do this anymore. So he was right. From now on, any salmon that you net, we're going to strip the eggs from the females and the milk from the males. We're going to mix them up and we're going to plant those fertilised eggs in the fish ponds.
The 4th Earl built 2 fish ponds which were used as a hatchery to rear salmon from eggs to restock the river. This ingenious conservation programme saw as many as 300,000 salmon nursed into life every 2 years.
Was this something that nobody else was doing?
Nobody else was doing it.
He was the first.
He was the first.
He was way ahead of his time.
Way ahead.
Quite remarkable. And the family like to think that the 4th Earl's actions 150 years ago helped secure the Tay as one of the best spots for salmon fishing in the world.
Right, Mary, it's up to you now.
I think big friendship could go on this.
Oh, it could, couldn't it?
Yes. Right.
Okay. Up, around. That's it. Back, just... Nearly, nearly, nearly. That was the wind that caused that.
Do you know, Ian, I don't think our luck's in, and I think the fish are all smiling down there, thinking, you didn't get me today.
Hello, Mishka.
On you go.
I may be empty-handed, but there's always a warming consolation of my cockaliki soup and good company.
Gosh, that looks steaming and good. It's a long time since breakfast.
This has got a
Cute.
So what was the biggest salmon that's ever been caught on the Tay out there?
Oh, in the 1920s, there was one that was 64 pounds. It was caught by Miss Ballantyne, who was a slip of a girl.
Was it shown to everybody?
Oh, God, yes. It was put on show in the Perth High Street. At Malloch's, the
monster of the Tay.
If you were wading in that swam past you, you would come out the water. Certain.
I must say, this is very good soup indeed. My instinct is to rush off and look for some more, but I think probably we've eaten the lot.
No, there's more in the pot, I'm sure.
Brings out the inner pig in me.
With the Tay on their doorstep, the king of fish has featured on royal menus at Scone for centuries. Lady Mansfield, herself a trained cook, is going to show me how she likes to prepare it. And I'm privileged to be invited into her family kitchen.
I'm really pleased to be back warming my bottom here.
We are so lucky because Ian has managed to find us a salmon.
Lovely.
Virtually all the Atlantic salmon you can buy is farmed, but the wild fish have a firmer texture and makes a rare treat.
What I like to do is to cook it completely naturally, just baking it in the oven and with a delicious hollandaise sauce.
Not mucking it about.
Just simple and have the real flavours.
To keep the salmon succulent, Lady Mansfield is going to wrap it in a large sheet of buttered foil, and to bring out the delicate flavour, she's simply using lemon, fresh dill and a sprinkle of seasoning.
Can I make a cheeky suggestion?
Yes,
I find that the way you automatically do it is wrap it up and do a great big roll of the foil on top, which stops the top of it getting cooked. But a slightly better way is to pull this over the top like that. And then, imagining it's a huge Cornish pasty, you just turn that round. But you must tuck it in because I don't want all the juices going over your oven, which I've already noticed was exceedingly clean. And so we've got our wonderful Cornish pasty.
That is
and none of the juice.
such a good tip.
While that goes into a hot oven for 20 minutes, we're joined by Lady Mansfield's daughter, Iona.
Very nice to see you. And what's that you've got there?
This is wild garlic.
Wow, that's memories of walking through woods and it just knocks you back. What are you going to do with it?
My mother's favourite sauce is a hollandaise, but mine is a wild garlic pesto.
Have I got to say which is the best? I think I'll be very tactful. I know which side my friends like it.
Lady Mansfield's traditional hollandaise starts with a white wine vinegar reduction, flavoured with parsley stalks, bay leaves, few peppercorns and a large blade of mace. The cooled reduction is added to 4 egg yolks and then heated gently over a pan of hot water while adding the softened butter. To make her pesto, Iona just blitzes the wild garlic with pine nuts, lemon juice and a good lug of olive oil.
And then, Mary, if you could possibly start grating some
I thought you'd
parmesan.
find something for me to do.
She finishes it off by stirring in the parmesan and adding a little more olive oil to get it to the right consistency.
And that's just perfect to put straight onto the salmon when it's ready.
Well, it's got another friend over there that's going with the salmon. How's that going?
I think we're nearly there. Here we are. I'm going to get it out. Just look at that.
That looks beautiful, doesn't it? And the skin comes off so easily when it's straight out of the oven. It is such an enormous treat to have wild salmon. And this is straight out of the Tay. It couldn't be better.
No, it's a real treat.
That hollandaise is rich and just a classic to go with the salmon. Now, new for me is your pesto. It's far more interesting than just putting crushed garlic in it. The colour is amazing and it's a good flavour. But this is so delicate. I think the hollandaise goes a little more with it.
So I think Mary's got your vote, Mummy.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I love it.
The Scone estate has always provided its royal visitors with some of the finest fare in Scotland. To discover why this place became such a draw for royalty, William's going to show me the very spot where 42 Scottish kings were crowned.
Now, Mary, this is the Moot Hill. And this is the reason why people come to Scone, is to see this and to stand on top of it.
This looks more like a mound to me than a hill.
Well, it's a very important mound. Legend has it that this hill was not just called the Moot Hill, it was also called the Boot Hill. And that's because when the kings and all their magnates came here, they all brought in their boots the soil of their own land. And so when they arrived here, they then poured that soil out to create what is now the Moot Hill. And the king would be crowned on that hill. So there's this huge significance around that. And this is a real relic of the past and a real sort of important place for the Scottish nation.
And it's what stands on top of Moot Hill that for nearly 1,200 years has been at the heart of Scottish and later British coronations.
So as we walked up this hill, we were leaving the secular world and coming into a very sacred place, which housed the stone of Scone, commonly known as the Stone of Destiny. This stone was brought here in 840 by the first King of Scotland, Kenneth MacAlpine, and some people say it is a Roman altar, some people say it came from the Holy Land. But what we do know, Mary, is that the stone has been used for important coronations of James I, Charles II, Robert the Bruce, Macbeth.
When you say Macbeth, is that Shakespeare's Macbeth?
Not specifically Shakespeare's Macbeth. Shakespeare created a sort of like wicked and evil king. Historians now think Macbeth was actually a very good Scottish king.
And they were crowned on this very stone.
Well, not this exact stone, but one that looks very similar to this that's no longer here, because the original stone was taken from here in 1297 by the guy, what I call the bad guy in Braveheart, Edward I, the hammer of the Scots, and he took it to Westminster, where all coronations since have used it.
The Stone of Destiny is wrapped in myth and legend and is a revered symbol of the Scottish nation. I remember the news on Christmas Day in 1950. 4 Scottish students stole back the stone from Westminster Abbey.
It caused a lot of problems. In fact, they shut the border between England and Scotland for the first time in 400 years. But after, I think, a very long chase, the stone was returned to Westminster Abbey before ending up in Edinburgh now.
So when the next monarch is crowned?
It will be on the Stone of Scone in Westminster.
OK.
With all the magnates around them and the bishops. And of course, then there'll be the grand ceremony and they will plant a crown on their fair head. And in this case, it would be Arise, Queen Mary of Cakes.
Well, look, when it really happens, I shall be watching and I shall have a very special memory of coming here to school.
But William tells me, after the crowns of Scotland and England were joined by the 1707 Act of Union, that the subsequent rebellions caused Scotland to fall from favour, and not a single royal visited Scone for almost 2 centuries.
Scotland was not à la mode.
So what changed all that then?
Well, that was actually partly to do with a very important visit here by Queen Victoria on her Jubilee tour in 1842.
That must have been absolutely amazing. And did she come through that arch down there?
She didn't come through that archway because actually we built an entirely separate and new driveway there. And it wasn't the only thing they did either. They brought butlers out of retirement, they had furniture specially made. So this was a gargantuan effort.
And the expense?
A huge amount.
And how long did all that take?
It took 2 years.
But how long did she stay?
Just the one night.
And that's all?
That's all.
All
one
that
night.
effort, all that expense, just for one night?
Incredible, but she was queen of the greatest empire there's ever been. She was the #1 monarch.
William's grandfather, the 8th Earl, opened the palace to the public in 1966, and now 100,000 people come to Scone each year. The legacy of Victoria's visit is a huge part of the draw, and William has pointed me in the direction of the very room where Queen Victoria and Prince Albert dined, to find curator Graham McIntyre.
You must be Graham.
Hello.
This is a very fine dining table here.
This is Queen Victoria's table. It was made specifically for that night.
And was that quite expensive?
In today's money, £75,000.
£75,000? That's an enormous amount. I mean, the whole visit cost so much.
It nearly bankrupted, the Earl said. But it was so important to him, and everything had to be right.
And where would Queen Victoria sit?
Victoria liked the heat, so Victoria and Albert actually sat with their backs to the fire.
What a good idea.
Yes.
Amongst the illustrious guests were the Prime Minister, Sir Robert Peel, and the Duke and Duchess of Buccleuch. Graham also tells me how the table was a feast for the eyes, decorated with sugar sculptures by the famous Italian confectioner William Jarrin, and shortbread embossed with the Mansfield coat of arms in gold leaf.
It's quite a special feeling to think I'm sitting on the same seat as Queen Victoria.
Victoria was just 23 when she visited. She and Albert had been married for 2 years, and I'm told the bed that the couple slept in is still here. I'm hoping Palace archivist Sarah Adams can tell me more.
Hello. Hello, you must be Sarah.
I am. It's lovely to meet you.
And this is Queen Victoria's bed.
It is, yeah.
Am I going to be allowed to sit on the bed?
We've been told we can.
Gracious. It isn't every day that we get to sit on Queen Victoria's bed. Well, I can say it's pretty hard, isn't it?
No, it's not the most comfortable.
To reveal the true cost of Queen Victoria's stay, Sarah has a ledger of the household accounts.
This section here is looking at the cost of the groceries, and it's done in 3-month periods. So you can see that in the period before the visit, the total amount that was spent was £51, 15 shillings and 9 pence. And this would roughly be just over £5,000. But for the period that she was here, our total has gone up to £289, 17 shillings and 8.5 pence. And this was roughly £30,000.
They must have had the finest of ingredients. They were killing the fatted calf.
Yes, and the 2 years leading up to the visit, there was a lot of work done. We've got invoices for upholstery, paper hanging, painting, masonry work, ironmongery. And when these were all added together, the final cost was £3,800, a modern equivalent of over £377,000.
It's amazing, really, isn't it?
Yes.
This was enormously expensive. How did the 4th Earl feel? It must have worried him.
Well, we do know how he felt about the visit because he wrote to his mother about it just about a month beforehand. As you may easily imagine, a royal visit this year will be very inconvenient. Yet it would be perfectly inhospitable for me to decline.
It didn't sound as though he was that keen. Do you think she appreciated coming here to Scone?
That's an interesting question. We're told that Victoria went to bed at 11 o'clock, which is an hour later than she would usually go. So hopefully she was having a nice time. But what we do know for certain is that Victoria and Albert fell in love with Scotland on their visit. And it was also not long after this that Victoria bought the Balmoral estate.
So they were setting the trend to visit Scotland. It's a good job he spent all that money, wasn't it?
One of the great draws to Scotland for Victoria and Albert was, of course, the landscape. The Scone estate is spread over 27,000 acres, and its prime position at the very beginning of the Highlands made it an important first port of call for visiting royalty and nobility. Much of the region became a vast outdoor playground for the upper classes, with deer stalking seen as the pinnacle of country sports.
Here they come. It's about time.
I would love to catch sight of these magnificent wild animals, and to help us are the estate's own gamekeepers, Roddy McIntosh and his son Stuart.
Good morning, Lady Mansfield. Nice to see you again.
Here we go.
Young Mary Berry, welcome to Logamond.
My, you look smart. You're all in the same tweed. Is it a special family tweed?
It is, yes. It's nice, it's warm.
It's really...
It's quite waterproof.
Is it water? I was just thinking, should you have a mac on top of it?
If it keeps the sheep dry, it's good for us as well.
Well, you look the part, certainly.
So if we're all feeling fit, it's on foot from now.
Right.
It's not the hunting season, so we're just going to have a look for the herd and see how close we can get. More of a deer safari, really.
Stalking, historically, has been the sport of kings.
Yes, it goes really back to the 11th and 12th century when it was the king's prerogative, and they developed various royal forests. And anybody else caught poaching deer had some, severe penalties.
Well, coming right up to date, venison has become really popular. Of course, it's very good for us. It's lovely and lean, no fat.
And it's simply delicious, too.
Oh, it is.
It's a very good thing that we can now all enjoy venison. And it's because landowners, like the Earl of Mansfield, maintain these huge areas for deer and grouse, that we can still have this wild landscape that has remained unchanged for centuries.
Oh, Roddy, I think Stuart and I are going to hold back now, aren't we?
Yes,
I think your best chance is to go off on your own, the three of you.
On. OK, right.
By keeping the group to a minimum and staying in line, there's less chance of the stalker being seen by the deer, and Roddy makes sure that we keep downwind of their very sensitive noses.
I saw the head of the deer walking there, Mary. So I don't know where they've gone just now, so we'll just need to keep creeping up here. So we'll carry on and we'll see what we can see.
OK, I'll keep close. Look,
at its little white tail. Isn't that beautiful?
There's another two up here. We'll need to stay low. And we'll go up to the top of this ridge here and we'll hopefully get a better view.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll get close.
Okay, goes by that way. There's now Mary, let me see deer. The deer have lain down in front of us.
Are they?
Yeah, they're lying down like us. So we can't see them, so we'll need to wait here for a little while to see if they'll stand up.
And will you see their heads just come up first?
Yeah, just you'll see the ears. And they'll always find you before you see them, most of the time.
And you were gamekeeper for William's grandfather?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
And how many years were you with him?
That was 40 years with him, yeah.
Did you ever travel to other estates with Lord Mansfield?
Travelled all over Berkshire, Lincolnshire, Northumberland. And most of the times you were told where you were going. There was only once when we were going away and I said, "Where are we going, my lord?" And he wouldn't tell me. And so we started heading east then. We started going a bit north. And I was starting to twig a wee bit. So I said to him, "This wouldn't involve some corgis by any chance, my lord?" And he said, "Well, don't stand on them." So we knew we were going then.
Now tell me about it. Who was there?
The Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen.
And how did you get on? Did this talk to you?
Oh, yes. They're the same as Lord Mansfield. It's totally a relaxation for them. You're in the hills like this, peace and quiet, no one worrying you.
What an honour.
It was an honour, yeah.
Since the extinction of the wolf, deer have no natural predators here. And Scottish natural heritage recognise that in order to sustain a healthy deer population, culling is necessary. But William explains that it has to be done right.
You pick out the old or the ones that are weak or that are like ill, and that's an effort to conserve the greater whole, the greater body of animals, to keep them all stronger.
Well, that's quite right.
Well, Mary, you're looking a wee bit cold. Would you like a wee dram?
I'll never say no, especially when there's a bit of a wind coming up.
Huh, William?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Don't spill any.
A Scotsman doesn't spill it.
This will warm up the cockles of our hearts.
Yes. No.
Well,
Here's your very good health, then, Mary.
Cheers.
If I blew and you lit a match, it would go up. As we head back from the hills, Lady Mansfield tells me venison will be the fuel for our dancing at the upcoming party. But first, I want her help with my take on a dish that has long been a favourite on the menu for royal visitors at Scone Palace.
Well, Mary, we are so lucky. Roddy and Stuart have managed to provide us with some fillet.
It looks amazing. It's quite big. Which kind of deer did it come from?
This is red deer, the monarch of the glen.
That's the great big fine one that we see pictures of.
Yes.
Start off by sealing the meat in a very hot pan.
Pepper and salt on the top.
Gosh, you can smell it already.
Then I'm going to turn that over. That's just what it should do, isn't it? Perfect.
When the venison is nicely browned, leave to one side to cool. Instead of the usual mushroom or pate topping, I'm going to use caramelised onions to crown this Wellington. Gently cook the onions in the same pan, and once soft and golden, set aside half for the gravy. Then add chopped thyme, light muscovado sugar, and balsamic vinegar.
That's it.
Smell it.
Have a smell.
You want both onions and meat completely cool before you wrap them in pastry. And I'm using puff pastry rolled out nice and thinly.
Now, normally, you would put beaten egg when you're sealing it, but brushing mustard not only adds to the flavour, it means that it will stick.
That's a really good tip. I didn't know that.
It sticks like mad.
This is where it all comes together. I've got a really neat way to wrap the venison in the pastry. Simply cut 2 rectangles from either side.
There we are. I'm going to turn those in like that and then roll it over gently, like that, like that. And then the fold is underneath and the top is where all the onions are.
That looks fantastic.
If you see a little bit of a gap there, there's nothing like a little pinch to get it together because we don't want the juices coming out.
Use the pastry you've cut off to make some decorations for the top and give it all a good brush with some egg wash. Pop it in the fridge to chill right down before cooking. While we're ladies in waiting, Lady Mansfield has an amazing culinary surprise from the palace archives.
It's a letter from the Duke of Wellington to my dear Lady Mansfield, dated September the 11th, 1833, with his signature at the bottom. So isn't that fun?
Absolutely amazing.
The other most extraordinary thing is he's enclosed a recipe. And it's a recipe for how to make butter. Put the cream into a strong linen cloth. Dig a hole and let the bottom be large enough to allow the cream to lie almost 4 inches deep all over it. Cover up with the earth. Let it remain 24 hours. Take it out and pour the cream, which will be very thick, into a bowl and stir it well with a wooden spoon or ladle. It is in bad weather that this mode of making butter is particularly advantageous.
I think the letter is worth an awful lot more than the recipe.
I think the recipe's barky.
This Wellington goes in the oven at 200 fan for about 15 minutes, while I get on with making a gravy worthy of the man himself. Stir in a tablespoonful of flour to the remaining onions, before gradually adding hot beef stock. And in goes a dollop of red currant jelly.
There's another ingredient that's going in which is very important, and that's the port.
Then let it bubble away until it looks rich and glossy before sieving out the onions.
Well, Mary, here it is, and the smell was so good that I met 2 people outside who were very keen to be allowed to try some.
Lovely to see you again, Roddy. Well, nobody knows more than you about venison and deer.
Roddy is joined by head gardener Brian Cunningham, and I hope they're in for a treat.
I think it's best to do it in thick slices. You'd rather have a thick slice than a thin one, I bet. Yes, right. It's going through like butter. I hope that it's beautifully pink.
Oh, just look at that. Isn't that fantastic?
Is that how it should be? You're the expert.
Lovely.
On this occasion, it's not going to be ladies first, it's boys first, because you're jolly hungry. Come on. It's funny, all the chaps like the gravy, don't they? But we have put quite a lot of port, and I know that you like a wee tipple from time to time.
Not often you get Mary Berry to come and cook for you, is it?
Well, I love to see the smile on their faces. That's what matters to me.
It's very nice. I think I'll have some more.
That's right. Come on.
I think I've won over the head gardener Brian with my Wellington. And in return, he's kindly agreed to show me the estate's 8-acre pinetum, a rare collection of majestic trees. Planted back in 1848 by the 4th Earl of Mansfield, it's a magnificent example of the Victorian craze for collecting plants from around the world. But it all began in 1810, when the 3rd Earl employed an 11-year-old boy who would go on to become one of the most renowned plant hunters of all.
So do you know the name David Douglas?
I think I do.
We've got strong ties with him because he was actually born here in the old village of Scone, and he served his apprenticeship here before moving on and eventually working for the RHS and doing a bit of plant hunting and exploration up in the northwest of America.
And of course, that's a huge journey in those days.
All to just bring us back some treasures. But what he's most famous for is his trees, and his forest trees in particular. So, maybe we should get out now and show you some of these, Mary. So we've got some noble firs, some grand firs. But this cracker here, this is the tree that I was wanting to show you.
And what is it?
Well, this is one of David Douglas's most important introductions.
Must be a Douglas fir.
That's right. And it's not just any old Douglas fir. This is one of the first Douglas firs in the country, planted in 1834 by seed sent back from America by David Douglas. If you imagine Scotland from the 1600s onwards, our trees were being decimated for the wars, shipbuilding, the Industrial Revolution. And David Douglas noticed that these trees were grown straight, they were going to be perfect for timber.
Brian explains that along with the Sitka spruce, the Douglas fir became the backbone of Scottish timber production, helping the country's woodland coverage recover from 4% in 1900 to almost 20% now.
So we have to thank David Douglas.
We certainly do.
But he never saw the result. If he looked at Scotland now and the whole landscape is lots of forests of pines, he'd be very proud.
He would be, I'm quite right.
But thanks are also due to the likes of the 3rd Earl, who supported David Douglas, enabling him to transform Scottish forestry into the billion-pound industry it is today.
Hello, Brian. It's Lady Manson. Have you still got Mary with you?
I sure do.
Please, could you bring her to the walled garden? Thank you.
We're on our way.
Today, Brian and the family are carrying on the spirit of the 3rd and 4th Earls with plans to reinstate the orchard in the 4-acre Victorian walled garden.
We've got here, it's been quite a trek.
That's marvellous. And you know, I said that when we had important people to come and visit us, we really liked it if we could manage to get them to plant a tree for us.
Oh, right. Well, there's a lovely great hole there. Looks perfect.
So it would be just fantastic if we could ask you to plant a tree.
Come on, let's get
If
going.
I give you the planting spade?
Gosh, that's beautifully shiny.
And Mary, we've chosen a William pear.
Oh, it's got a good root.
Oh, getting into it now. Fantastic.
There she goes. Is that OK?
It's beautiful, thank you.
Absolutely perfect.
Well, I feel in very good company with all the royals at Scone Palace. Let's hope it grows to be a very fine tree.
As my visit draws to an end, the palace is gearing up for what will be a real treat. A grand dinner for 40 of Lord and Lady Mansfield's great friends, followed by traditional Scottish reeling.
Now I've got to get my bearings here. This must be where the dancing is. But last time I saw it, there was a table the whole length of the room. I hope all those statues stay like that with the bouncing up and down of the reels, because it certainly will make the floor bounce. I can see that you're busy, Jean. Is this an exciting time for you?
Yes, it's lovely, lovely, really exciting, really exciting. This is for the pre-dinner drinks tonight. We're having champagne.
Nothing but the best. Talking of nothing but the best, were you here when the Queen came?
Yes.
What drink did she have?
Dubonnet. And she had to get a new bottle because, well, we kind of thought maybe somebody had served her a bad drink, maybe a bottle that had in the back of the cupboard for a number of years. It's the same with Princess Margaret. When she was only once ever been here that I know of, and when she came, it was she made up her own gin and tonic.
Did she? And did she like it?
Yes.
We've heard she enjoyed it.
Yes.
I've been tasked with coming up with a suitably Scottish pud for the party. So I've recruited William and a bottle of scotch, and I'm inspired to make an old favourite full of fine Scots ingredients.
Cranachan couldn't be more Scottish. In fact, my mamma would be very proud of me. Will you help me?
I'll try to help.
The first thing to do is to caramelise the oats to make them nice and crunchy. So equal amounts of light muscovado sugar and jumbo Scottish oats go into the pan with a knob of butter.
Just get turning with that.
Okay, so let's just flip it around.
Flip it around, preferably not all over the table. And I've got these raspberries. Now, am I right in thinking that this area is particularly famous for raspberries?
Yes. Yes. This would be the raspberry bowl of Britain. Because we have very long summer days. Bit of rain, it is Scotland, but long summer days, that's the key.
Now for the cream. As this Cranachan is for a special occasion, I'm going to make it extra luxurious by whisking double cream into rich mascarpone. When the oats are beautifully brown, put to one side to cool.
Now we need the whiskey. Shall we judge it? What do you think? Like that?
I think that looks perfect.
Oh, well, we'll see. We'll see how we get.
Fold the cooled oats into the whiskey and cream along with those lovely Scottish raspberries.
It's a bit like Eton mess.
It is, yeah.
But it's Scottish.
Scottish mess.
Scottish mess. It is really sheer luxury. Come on.
All right. I reckon you might have topped the chart with that. That's very good. And give us good energy for the dancing to come as well.
And we need it. Or some of us will.
Always serve at the guest's left-hand side. Water and the wine at the guest's right-hand side.
Down in the kitchen, Steve Gilroy, the head chef, is hard at work, and I can't wait to see what he's serving ahead of my pud for tonight's grand dinner.
May I come into the chef's domain?
Hello.
What's going on, Steve?
We're preparing canopies for the dinner that I believe you're attending.
Lady Mansfield has said you're going to have venison in some form.
Yeah, we have some lovely roe deer from the estate. It's the same dish that I done for Lord Mansfield's 60th last year.
So it's well practiced?
Yeah, it's well practiced.
Oh, that's good. And goodness gracious, what is this?
This is a haggis bonbon, and it's with a whiskey jus. So you eat the haggis and then drink the jus.
You don't want too many of those.
No, well, it depends.
A huge array of the Murray's family friends have gathered for the night. And I'm told that there are many fine Scottish dancers amongst them. And I've got my mother's Wilson tartan sash to help me fit in.
Mary, can I introduce you to Jane McNabb?
Hello. How do you do?
This is Bran Ivory. It's Bran Ivory. And this is Jane's husband, Jamie McNabb.
Hello. I have to look. Is that badger? Or what? No, what is
horsehair.
Horsehair.
All right.
See how ignorant I am.
Come on, then.
Dinner is served, and Jean is in her element, keeping everything flowing smoothly.
Thank you.
The seared venison is the star of the show. And with the palace sparkling and fully brought to life, it's easy to imagine the many royals enjoying the Murray hospitality throughout the centuries.
On the one that Mary done it look like that, all right?
Right, OK.
And the chef has made sure there's enough of my Cranachan for everyone.
Let battle commence. Ha-ha!
One day, you will be the Earl of Mansfield. Have you thought how you feel about that?
Quite the responsibility. That's 16 plus generations. One thing that I've always been keen to ensure is that I don't want to be known as William who just went home. Because that's what I could very easily do, but I wouldn't be able to cope with that. I want to go out into the world and earn my own stripes.
And the relationship that you have with your staff is quite extraordinary. It means a lot to you, doesn't it?
It means a huge amount to me. And theoretically speaking, they should call me now my lord, which I find really strange. So I insist upon them all calling me still William, because that's what they called me for years.
So you wish to carry on the traditions of Scone?
Very, very much so. And I want to continue tradition and marry the old to the new and sort of drag Scone into the 21st century and beyond. And I'm very excited by that.
It's all coming back to me, sort of. But what fun to be reeling again.
We turn, and now to Will.
It's been so wonderful to be here amongst all this incredible history at Scone and get a taste of the royal pleasures that so delighted all the kings and queens who came here over the past 12 centuries. I'll never forget being given this one-off peek into the private side of this Scottish national treasure. And it's good to know that with William and his family and their loyal staff, its future is in safe hands. Next time, I visit Powderham Castle on the Devon coast to meet the youngest generation of one of Britain's oldest families.
The cream before the jam.
Who are taking on the challenge of a great estate. There's an awful lot for you to do here, Charlie. And doing things a bit differently.
The best thing about the staircase, obviously, is going down on a tray or on your bottom.
Britain is world famous for its stately homes. And when it comes to food, our country houses were the tastemakers.
Curry and cockles, it's an absolute first for me.
In this series, we'll sample delicious dishes.
They look wonderful, Mary.
And enjoy the lavish hospitality that these homes were celebrated for.
It looks absolutely stunning.
I'll show you how to cook tasty modern recipes inspired by the history of our great houses.
This is actually Napoleon's chair from Waterloo.
Mind you, I could do with a cushion. Join me as I meet the families who own these exceptional homes.
The best thing about the staircase, obviously, is going down on a tray or on your bottom.
And find out what it's really like to live.
That looks quite saucy.
Work.
It was very like cutting a hedge.
I think you're better at baking.
And party in the nation's most beautiful stately homes.
I'm not going to drop it.
This week, I'm meeting the young family breathing new life into Powderham Castle.
You like it, Jackie? I love it.
And I'll join them at a magical woodland party to thank everyone who's helped them settle in.
It's been quite a journey. Fairy tales happen.
This is your invitation to dine at some of Britain's grandest tables in some of the most beautiful houses in the land.
I'm in Devon, just south of Exeter, crossing the great estuary of the River Exe.
I just love Devon, even on a blustery, a rather misty day. The smell of the sea, it's all very tempting.
waiting to meet me is the Earl of Devon himself, Charlie Courtney.
Hello, Mary.
Oh, it's lovely to be back in Devon.
Thank you for coming in this lovely weather.
Oh, who cares?
Charlie's family has been connected to this estuary for over 600 years.
You know, the estuary is such a remarkably vibrant place. I think in medieval times it was something like England's second or third biggest port.
Was it?
And so we were a French family, and all the trading from Exeter would have gone out to the south of France, to Bordeaux and round there, and they would have brought wine back and wool out. So it was very much a sort of trading estuary.
I'm on my way to the house that's been the Courtney family home since 1391, Powdram Castle.
There it is in all its glory, Powdram.
So there's Powdram Castle.
Flag flying.
Yes, that's my flag, the Earl of Devon's flag. I think I'm the 28th generation of the family to move my kids in, which is rather nice.
Well, I feel as though there ought to have been a drawbridge.
I know, well, we've stood down the knights from the top.
Charlie inherited Powdram 2 years ago on the death of his father. Before then, he, his wife, and their 2 young children had been living in America for 11 years.
Let's get in out of the rain.
Yes.
You can tell me more.
And now, as Earl of Devon, he's become the custodian of one of the oldest aristocratic titles in the country.
Welcome to Powdram.
And a sprawling castle which has evolved over 6 centuries.
So, Mary, this is the big dining room, which, for all its appearances, is actually the most modern room in the house. It was built by the Victorians, effectively to provide a really nice functional space to have big dinner parties, and it's one that we use a lot as a family for sort of Christmas dinners, Christmas lunches.
I can just imagine this room as it is with a roaring fire. Oh, we've been out in all that cold.
I know, it's a good place to warm up after a morning outside. And even though it's the most modern room in the house, it tells a very old story because it has, throughout the coats of arms on the walls, the family tree, effectively, dating back to Athon in the far corner, who was a French knight who fortified a town called Courtenay in France in about 1000 AD. So he was the original Courtney. And you see the story of the family line ever since, up to William, who built the room in 1830.
The Courtney family have an impressive lineage. But now I want to meet the next generation.
Come on through and meet the family. Mary, this is my wife, AJ.
Hello, AJ.
Really nice. And this is Jocelyn.
Hi.
I love the hat.
And Jack, my son.
So this is actually where you live, sort of within the castle.
Yeah.
It feels very cosy here.
It is cozy. Yeah, it's actually nice and warm.
And I recognise an American accent, is that right?
Yeah. AJ and I met in a bar in Las Vegas. I was on a rugby tour, AJ was on a hen weekend. And the rest is Jocelyn and Jack.
Oh, lovely. And how's England for you?
The main problem is the weather. Yes. We're used to warm, scorching.
Spoiled SoCal.
And when we come here, we're just like...
But you've got the beauty of Devon.
Yes.
I most likely will need a bit of help later making a Devon cream tea. Can I rely on you two?
I don't know how to make one.
You know how to eat it?
Cream first, then jam.
Right, we'll have it that way. But now I want to see the rest of the house.
Yes.
Come on.
Let's go through his door and explore the house.
Powdram began as a medieval castle, but it was in the 18th century that the modern house took shape. From the magnificent music room for grand entertaining to the elegant libraries, this was a home designed to impress.
And here's the staircase hall.
What an extraordinary, glorious colour.
Yeah, it's powder and blue. It's a very unique colour. I interestingly had a call from a French count a couple of months ago asking to reproduce it in his French castle. So it's the powder and blue, and people obviously seem to like it.
What What striking plasterwork.
It was done by a couple of local Exeter craftsmen, but what you notice in the top corners, there's a different animal. There's a squirrel here, there's something like a stoat there.
And a hare with great long ears. And birds, lots of birds. It's depicting the countryside.
Absolutely, and it depicts the pursuits of people that lived in the castle when it was built. So 1750, you could see the musical instruments they were playing.
A violin or something.
It almost looks like cake icing, doesn't it?
It does. Very beautifully done, too. All that's missing is a lady coming down in all marvellous dress, billowing out. Imagine all the men standing here with their drinks, watching them all coming downstairs.
The best thing about the staircase, obviously, is going down on a tray or on your bottom. When I was a child, we didn't have carpets on the stairs, and it was just a plain wooden staircase. You get really good speed going up down the stairs.
Yes, because you couldn't slide down the banisters because you get stuck halfway.
Yeah.
On a tray would be a good idea.
Great fun. I'll show you the marble hall. So this is the marble hall, which is the bottom half of the old medieval Great Hall. On the far side of the hall, you see the old medieval archways. And the archways go to the buttery, the kitchen, and the pantry. And a whole meal would be processed from the kitchen down the corridor, through that door, to the big table up there. The whole purpose of the house was cooking and serving food.
And entertaining.
And entertaining, exactly.
But there's no food coming from that kitchen now.
No, well, we'll go and have a look and see if we can make something happen.
Today, Charlie and AJ do their own cooking in their private family kitchen. But in the 19th century, this house employed over 30 domestic servants, including cooks and kitchen maids. The kitchen they worked in has been perfectly preserved.
Mary, this is the Victorian kitchen.
It is so lofty and big. And the copper, gosh, I'm glad I don't have to clean that.
Yes, I mean, what's amazing about this space is it's been the kitchen of the castle since 1390, when the castle was built. So you can sort of think of 600 years of just preparing food and feasting from this kitchen.
But in the 20th century, the grand entertaining came to an end.
In the 10, 20 years after the war, you know, the butler left, housemaids left. My grandparents had to diversify, you know, generate an income and open it to visitors.
And that was a learning curve, because you find out you need a tea room.
Exactly. So here's my grandmother, Venetia, overseeing the baking of the scones. She'd have loved to have met you, Mary.
You know, I couldn't come to Devon without having a cream tea, a Devon cream tea. Would you like to see my scones? I think they're very special. They're crispy on the outside and all soft and spongy in the middle.
Oh, Mary, we would be honoured and would really, really enjoy to have some of your cream tea.
There's nothing more tempting than warm homemade scones, fresh from the oven. This recipe is a classic. To please everyone, I'm making both plain and fruit scones.
So for my scones, this is the recipe I've done year in, year out, and it seems to be a very good one.
The ingredients couldn't be simpler. 450 grams of self-raising flour, then for extra lightness, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 50 grams of sugar and 100 grams of butter.
I've made more scones in my time than I can think of, because the ingredients you've always got on the shelf, they're very easy to make. Just rub it and lift the air into it until it looks like breadcrumbs.
Next, I'm beating 2 eggs and adding milk to bring it up to 300 ml.
Then I use a knife and I just work it in. It'll be a fairly sticky dough, and that's what I want, and I won't handle it too much. And the little bit that is at the bottom I'll use to brush over the scones to give them a nice shiny top.
That looks like a nice sticky dough, not too dry. Now it's ready to shape.
I've got some flour over here, So I'm putting my hand in there so that as I work it all together, it won't stick to my hand. Well, not too much anyway. So bring it together. And then onto a floured table, just tip that out. And I'm not doing an awful lot of kneading. I'm going to cut it in half.
One half I'll keep for the plain scones, and the other half I'll mix with the sultanas.
Knead those in. Don't really need a rolling pin, just pat it all over. Now, what I'd really like are 2 little helpers. Oh, there we are. How about Jack? You come here. Have you made scones before?
No.
No? Oh, what about you?
Not really.
So, what I do when I'm cutting them out is to get a little pile. And what you do is just do that, and it stops it sticking.
Okay.
And wriggle it, like that, backwards and forwards. That's it. Oh, that looks a beauty.
We'll pop the scones on a greased baking tray, flour side down.
Right, now, we want them with shiny tops. A little bit on each one. Try not to get it too down the sides, because if you do, it sticks to the tray. So, Jocelyn, when you came from America, what was it like to come over here to live in a castle? Did you ever get lost?
I got lost for 20 minutes trying to find the kitchen for breakfast.
I expect there are many places to play hide and seek.
Yes. A lot. My parents have said that we probably shouldn't play it because once one of my friends got very much lost.
Gracious.
Our scones are ready for the oven. Bake them at 200 degrees fan for about 10 minutes until they're crisp and golden. And then for the ultimate test. Serving our Devon cream tea
Yay!
to the Earl and Countess of Devon.
That is amazing.
Or Mum and Dad to Jocelyn and Jack.
Now what goes next,
A well-made scone.
The cream before the jam.
Cream before the jam.
This is because we are in Devon, is that right?
Yes, we were doing some interviews for positions, and Charlie put the question, cream on top or jam on top? If they got it wrong, I just couldn't save them.
And the first recorded account of a cream tea, apparently, comes from the archive of Tavistock Abbey. Following a Viking invasion in 997 AD, they knocked down the abbey. And in order to rebuild it, they employed a number of craftsmen. And it was the Earl of Devon, a predecessor of mine called Otherwald. He ordered them scones, cream and jam.
Well, that is a good heritage, isn't it?
Proves we invented it, not the Cornish.
That's quite a claim. But I imagine it takes more than cream teas to keep a house like Powderham going. The castle is set on a 3,500-acre estate. It's home to a working farm as well as a magnificent deer park run by gamekeeper Dick Durrant.
The deer, to me, they look like little Bambis.
Yeah, I mean, they're a super-looking animal.
Pretty.
Dick started looking after the deer here nearly 20 years ago when Charlie's father was still Earl.
The deer herd originates from post-English Civil War, so about 300 years.
And so it's kept going through all the families, through all the generations, and is continuing. So
Yes,
nothing changes.
Exactly. I mean, that's part of the reason I really enjoy working in this landscape, is that you're working in a piece of almost living history. And because it's been in the same family ownership for the past 600 or so years, it has changed, but still looks incredibly similar.
Every year, the Powderham estate attracts around 35,000 visitors from all over the UK. But there are some guests who travel from much further afield.
This must be a wonderful landscape for wildfire. It's so peaceful.
Yeah, during the winter, you'll see large amounts of widgeon and teal. The birds nest in the northwest of Russia.
Gracious.
Yeah, no,
So they come all that way to
Yes.
here.
Yeah, the comfort of our winter.
Do you shoot any of the wild duck?
Yeah, we do shoot a very, very small percentage of them each year, which we would take away and eat, obviously.
Duck has been on the menu at Powderham for over 300 years, but you don't need to live on a country estate to enjoy it. This is my pan-fried breast of duck, served with a rich apple sauce with calvados, in honour of the Courtenay family's French heritage.
I really like duck, and so often over the years I've done it duck à l'orange, but it goes really well with apples.
I like to remove the skin. Use a sharp knife for any tough bits.
So that's come off very nicely.
Season the duck breasts.
That's it.
Then fry them in a hot pan for 4 minutes on each side.
Right, that looks a bit all right. Lovely colour there. Then it's over. That smells pretty good.
Once they're evenly cooked on both sides, leave them to rest for 15 minutes.
And resting is all important. Why? Because the heat that you've had on the outside will go on cooking, and also it makes it more tender.
Then it's on to my apple and calvados sauce, made with eating apples.
I'm going to do it in butter because I want the buttery taste. There's a tiny little bit of residue from the duck, and that will help to give a little bit of brown to my apples.
Gently cook the apple slices until they're tender and golden.
Now that's getting soft, but not quite. The reason why I wouldn't use something like a Bramley, a cooking apple, because it gets to this stage and it would be a beautiful buttery mush, and I don't want that. I want to have a bit of texture within the sauce. I reckon we're there.
Now leave the apple to cool.
That's it.
Then it's time for the star of my sauce, calvados.
Of course, calvados is apple brandy. I'm using 100 ml, and I'm just going to evaporate that just until it's half. That'll drive off the alcohol. Mind you, that smell, it makes me think of Christmas. It makes me think of special things. It's lovely.
Once the calvados has reduced by half, it's on to the next part of the sauce. 100 ml of stock and 200 ml of apple juice. Add to the pan and reduce again.
I want the sauce to be slightly thickened, so I'm going to do that with corn flour instead of flour. It gives a more translucent look to the sauce.
Mix a teaspoonful of corn flour with a splash of apple juice. Add some of the sauce.
In it goes. Give that a good stir. Back into the pan there.
And bring it to the boil, stirring as it thickens.
I'm going to add the apple to it now and take it off the heat. I don't want that apple to go all mushy.
For an extra hit of flavour and colour, add any remaining juices from the meat to the pan.
Right, we're ready to serve. I want it to be a gentle pink, and I think that's just what I've achieved, and I'm rather pleased about that. I reckon that took me about half an hour to make. Oh, so simple to do, and yet so special.
And who better to sample it than the Countess, or AJ, as she's known to everyone here at Powdram.
AJ, come in. I hope you're hungry. Come in and have a taste.
Oh, it smells amazing. I feel very lucky right now. It's perfect. The sauce isn't too rich. That you can
no
barely
cream
take
in there, no cream
it's
at all.
a perfect combination.
So how did you come to be Countess here when you've come from America?
I met him at a bar in Vegas. I had organized a bachelorette weekend.
A hen weekend?
A hen weekend. And I was on a TV show at the time, so I could get a really cool suite.
You were doing a show? So you were acting?
Yes.
Before she moved to Powdram, AJ enjoyed a successful career as an actress in America. Over the years, she starred in shows including Seinfeld, My So-Called Life, and Baywatch.
So, as an actress, you were in a bar.
And I looked across the bar, and I smacked my girlfriend, and I said, "That one, yum."
I can see you saying that, too.
Well, who wouldn't? And he was just smiling and flopping his floppy hair, and we just looked at each other and smiled.
So when you got to know Charlie quite well in Las Vegas. Did you know, in fact, that he had a title?
No, no. One of the guys said, hey, that's a good one, he's royalty. But I didn't...
I didn't take it in?
No. And then the next morning, I called my mom, and I said, Mom, I've met the guy. We had a rendezvous in New York, like a month later. Letters started coming, and then phone calls like clockwork. And then we went to Isle of Skye, and then we drove back, and he said, do you want to meet my parents? And I was like, wow, serious. And we show up at this house, and it's like this long driveway, then these amazing gardens, and then this stone castle comes up, and I was just like, this can't be for real. And it still happens where you look out and just go, it's magic.
That is a truly romantic story.
I can only guess what it must have been like for AJ moving to this very different world and taking on this vast house with centuries of history and tradition. Today, she's invited me to share some of the remarkable family stories she's discovered.
What splendor.
Well, this is the state bed, the place where Charlie's father was born. When Charlie and I first got here to the house, we started walking through rooms and opening drawers and just seeing what's where. And we found this. Come see. Hundreds of love letters. And these are from Charlie's grandparents, from Christopher to Venetia and from Venetia to Christopher. So they met when Venetia was married to the Earl of Cottenham, his cousin.
Oh, married before.
Yes, this was a bit of a scandal. And he traveled a lot and wasn't very present.
That's where the trouble starts.
And this is a beautiful picture of Venetia. And she was a very striking woman.
Beautiful
Had her eyes.
skin.
Yeah. And this is Christopher. So they met and fell in love and had this passionate romance. And these are all the letters before they got married. You see it. Look at this one. My wife, my best armchair, my private sanctum, our home. Very intense, very romantic.
I mean, it's just fantastic. They are ripped open. Look at the tops.
No, and
I'm so excited. The letter's coming. I want to know what's inside.
Yes. This is from Christopher. I could not sleep. It was 10 o'clock, and I asked your picture if it could help me. It is marvelous how I can have a conversation with you when we are miles apart, and how you seem to put new life into me and help me always.
It's all very touching, isn't it?
It is. And he had just inherited Powderham at age 19 after 3 relatives passed away in succession. Then finally they got married and they could be together, and they were in the house together for 1 month, and then he got called to war.
And what happened to him?
He had a brutal war. And he was never the same after the war. It's a real drama. It's a real life love story. And it's something we relate to, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Charlie having written me love letters. And then this we have in the other room. Would you like to see some coronation robes?
I'd love to.
In 1953, Christopher and Venetia attended the Queen's coronation. They cared for Powderham until Christopher's death in 1998.
So this is what Christopher and Venetia wore. Would you like to try a coronet?
Aha. Are you sure?
Go for it. That one's a lot more comfortable than the little one. I'd have probably been better at it if I went to the finishing schools. You gotta balance it more. Look at
that looks quite saucy. One shake and it would drop on the floor.
Right?
And I dare say
Well,
it's
this one
quite
does
valuable.
have the little strap.
So if there is in the future a coronation, you would be wearing these robes.
Would I? Wow. Because I'm a little short for that one.
After all, you are a countess.
Yeah, exactly. No, and it's like moving into this house. What are you doing? You're embodying this role, and you study it. I mean, the title of countess, to me, just means, that we're the ones that have to look after the place. This castle was built in support of its community, so I'm actually really interested in strengthening ties and finding out what purpose we can serve. This is my favorite little cottage on the estate. They've just cut it all back.
This morning, AJ is showing me how she's opening up the castle with a new project based in the old kitchen garden.
This is a great wall here.
Yes, this is the walled garden. So this supplied the house with all the food and everything, but in modern days, they've kind of been used for charities, and this has become very, very magical place.
Powderham recently invited a local charity to take over the old Victorian greenhouses. The Dawlish Gardens Trust provides training and support to people with physical and learning disabilities.
Hi, Jeanette. Would you like to meet Mary?
Nice to see you. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Jeanette.
Yes, it is. Yes. If I can introduce the guys that we have here. We have Natasha and Caroline. They are both deaf people. Caroline is also deaf-blind.
It looks as though you're planting pumpkins. Why pumpkins?
In the castle, they have treasure hunts.
For the visitors. So lots of kids come.
And when they complete the treasure hunt and get all the questions right, then they can have a pumpkin to take home.
And wonderful to have such great helpers.
Yes, and it's also wonderful. We have a great space to offer, and they're growing all the vegetables to feed all the animals here.
In the beginning, when we first came, we were just in 1/3 of the section, but we worked so well that we actually moved into the middle section. You'll see all our people busy out there planting and picking.
Yep. They've done mosaics and crafts and photography, and it's just a wonderful space. And this is something that I see Powderham doing so naturally. You know, it was built to protect and serve its community, and we feel very lucky to have them around.
As a thank you to everyone who's helped them recently, AJ and Charlie will be hosting a special party during my visit.
Oh, just what I need. And they're beautifully young. I think that'll be about enough.
And I think it would be lovely to use some of their own delicious veg in a recipe I'm sure everyone will enjoy. This is my refreshing midsummer salad. Along with tender broad beans from the greenhouse, I'm using asparagus, figs, and goat's cheese, all drizzled with a Dijon mustard dressing. Start by podding the broad beans. Then it's on to the asparagus. Cut off the tips and slice the stalks diagonally, which I think is an attractive touch.
So all those I'm going to cook in boiling salted water for 3 minutes, just until they're tender. Cook them any longer and they'll lose their colour and they'll lose their flavour.
Pop them in boiling water, season well, and after 3 minutes, they'll be ready.
They should be a beautiful, bright green colour, but to keep that colour, they need to go straight into cold water.
Next, I like to take the cooked broad beans out of their skins, if there's time.
And then when you get inside, look at that, it's a beautiful, bright green colour.
Then take some ripe figs, cut off the tops and slice them into quarters.
Now I've got some little gem lettuces. Just take off the base of that, and then leaving the root on so it holds together, just cut it in thin slices. So that's our base.
Arrange the lettuce on a large plate, add the figs, some of the mixed salad leaves, and a sprinkling of colourful micro-herbs, followed by the blanched beans and the asparagus, and pepper and salt.
You're certainly going to get lots of textures here. You'll get a bit of crunch from the asparagus, and those beans have still got texture.
Now take some goat's cheese, cut off the rind and crumble it over the salad.
The cheese gives it a real lift and a lovely flavour. OK, you don't like goat's cheese, use feta.
And finally, onto the dressing. Chop some chives and add a teaspoon of caster sugar to a bowl.
Then I'm going to put a teaspoonful of Dijon mustard in there and about a teaspoon of lemon juice.
Then add a clove of crushed garlic and 6 tablespoons of mild olive oil.
And it will thicken a bit because the mustard always makes it a little bit thick.
Season with pepper and salt.
Then in go the chives. Then I'm going to just drizzle that over the top. And don't put this dressing on until the last minute.
The whole effect, I think, is lovely. I really hope Charlie and AJ's party guests will enjoy it.
So there it is, my midsummer salad. Beautifully healthy, rather different, and great for a special occasion.
We've got a bit of
This is great.
a storm brewing. It's quite fun, isn't it?
Lovely.
For centuries, Powdram has been defined by its location on the estuary of the River Exe, a place for both trade and for pleasure.
On a day like this, there couldn't be anywhere better than being in the estuary.
The estuary is amazing. The family have always had a great connection to the estuary, particularly through sailing. Powdram was always approached from the sea back in the days, and there was a harbour right in front of the castle before they built the railway line. It overlooks this amazing main road, effectively, up and down from Exeter out to the sea.
As Lord of the Manor of Powdram, Charlie owns much of the foreshore along the River Exe, which he leases to local shellfish growers.
We're now, I think, approaching high tide. At low tide, so much of this is all mud banks, mud flats, and this is where you get all the mussels and all the cockles and all the amazing seafood. But people pick all sorts of shellfish down here. It's an absolutely lovely source of food. As we come up, we're coming towards the Star-Crossed Yacht Club, and the Yacht Club has been sailing this estuary since at least 1770s. It has a claim to being the oldest sailing club, the oldest yacht club in England. It was formed originally in the village of Star-Crossed by an ancestor of mine, William II Viscount, along with his friends. And in the 1950s, they moved from Star-Crossed up to the old Powdram boathouse.
The founding members of the Star-Crossed Yacht Club started a number of unique Powdram traditions which still survive to this day.
So, Mary, this is one of the earliest illustrations that we have of the castle from the estuary. It's a lovely print from the mid-1700s, and it shows the family boathouse down here, see, that the Star-Crossed Yacht Club now occupies. But, of course, the other relic that we have from this era, as well as the yacht club, is the Star-Crossed Dining Club, which was founded by the same group of gentlemen. And what's wonderful is that dining club, the Star-Crossed Club, still meets at Powdram, and they still eat the standard starter of curried cockles, using cockles from the estuary and using curry from all these spice ships that would have been trading up and down the estuary.
Charlie, curried cockles. I need to know how to make them. Come and show me.
Let's go to the big kitchen and have a go.
Charlie is going to show me how to cook this historic Powdram favourite, fresh Devon cockles, smothered in a creamy curry sauce made with apples, white wine and mango chutney.
So here we have the cockles. These would have been harvested out on the estuary.
Hey, that's fresh, isn't it?
Look.
I have to confess, I have never cooked cockles. I've only had them in the East End in a sort of cup, and I can remember them being frightfully tough. But this is interesting.
Charlie starts by frying a large onion.
We now host the cockle dinner here, which
And
is the
how
curry
many
cockles. 20 to 30 people. Some new family names, some old family names, the farmers and the landowners, and they all meet and talk about what's going on.
And the first course is always this.
Always curried cockles. Now we need to add the famous spices.
Charlie is adding garam masala, cumin, ground coriander, and for some heat, 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper.
So this is the curry sauce, and of course curry, when this was first made in the 1770s, was just becoming popular as a sort of preservative of food in English cooking.
And it often disguised flavours that had passed their...
Yes.
You know, the fish was getting a bit stinky, and they'd put the curry powder in to disguise it.
Exactly.
Now, add a generous splash of white wine.
Shall I do that for you?
Do you want to slosh
Yeah,
it?
I'm
Please
pretty
do.
good at sloshing the wine in. 150 ml. Exactly.
Perfect.
And plenty left for us. I'll pop that to one side.
Then add 600 ml of fish stock.
Shall I stir while it
Do the
goes?
stir while I pour it in.
As that starts to thicken, pour in 150 ml of cream.
Devon knows about the cream.
Then chop 2 eating apples.
So that will be coming to the boil, and the apple goes in.
The point of the apple is to thicken up the sauce a little bit.
Now let the sauce simmer for a while and reduce.
Right, the next ingredient is some mango chutney.
And Charlie is being pretty generous with it.
Never be shy on a mango chutney.
That's far more than most people would add, and I think you're quite right to do it. And it just adds that little bit of sweetness to it.
Then add lemon zest, the juice of half a lemon, and season.
Should we add the cockles?
Go on, then.
The cockles should be cooked in advance, soaked in water for several hours, then steamed or boiled.
I mean, it depends on whether your guests mind a bit of authentic ex-foreshore in their meal, but if they don't mind it, it's actually quite nice to have them sort of a little bit gritty.
This is ready, isn't it?
We just need to add a little bit of garnish. We got some coriander and some parsley, and then we'll serve it on a bed of rice.
Curried cockles. It's an absolute first for me.
That's brilliant.
It's a bit of
That works, doesn't it?
It really works. This is fabulous, everybody. It is really, really, really good. I mean, who would think of currying cockles? I promise you, this will be on the cards for me.
Powdram is a castle that's full of cherished traditions. Preserving this heritage is a never-ending task. There are 34 staircases to clean, 16 state rooms, nearly 40 bedrooms, and over 50 antique clocks, each of which needs to be wound every week, a job Maurice Down has been doing for over 40 years. This morning, Charlie is showing me his next big challenge.
So, Mary, all the bedrooms in the house are numbered, and these bedrooms up here are known as the 30s, and they've been unoccupied for about 20 or 30 years. And as you'll see, they've sadly fallen into something of a decline, with the paint peeling off the walls, plaster falling off the ceilings.
Mould in the corners.
But what's wonderful about up here is the treasures of the family have sort of collected for years in these rooms.
There are so many boxes and trunks. I wonder what's in here. Oh, look, that must have been for top hats.
It's a top hat box, absolutely.
Is that, it looks like a bath shape.
Travelling bath, Victorian. Everything you need for going round the Empire.
What else is there? What would that be? Oh, it's got something written on the
That
front.
would be a tin hat box. It says C.P. Courtney, Esquire. This would have been my Uncle Charlie, great-great-Uncle Charlie. And that's his local police helmet.
But look down in there, there's a spike, and you unscrew it and put it on the top, would you think?
Yeah.
There we are.
It probably doesn't fit me.
No, it's actually a rather small head.
His picture in the dining room makes him look like quite a tall man.
You're tall already.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot for you to do here, Charlie. People think, living in a country house like this, that it's all like Downton Abbey and there are butlers and housemaids. But in reality, there's some parts that are just like this.
Yeah, constantly you're repairing, constantly you're trying to maintain, constantly you're finding ways to generate a bit more income, but without damaging things and maintaining things. So it's a constant balance, but it's a lot of fun.
Do you know, this house is like a maze. I could so easily get lost. I'm really glad you're with me.
I know, it's amazing. When you bring even experts around the house, they all find themselves getting lost and disoriented because the house is so many different eras and so many different histories all sort of combined together. And there are all these amazing doors here, and then every now and again, they'll add a secret door as well, which takes you somewhere completely different.
Goodness
And this is a little servant's passage that takes you from the landing of the staircase through to the minstrel's gallery.
Oh.
So this is the minstrel's gallery. You can sneak in and no one knows you're here. And there are some lovely holes in the panel here that were made by my grandfather when he was a boy to be able to see what the grown-ups are doing up here. So, Mary, here is the anteroom, which is the room that leads into the libraries. And in here, we not only have a few secret doors, but we also have a secret window.
Oh, and the whole place lights up.
So, Mary, here we are in the libraries. Now, there's a wonderful secret door in the second library. You're going to have to find it.
I'm looking for a little cut-through. It sort of must be in this section. Ah, I can see here that it's all cut away. Is that right?
That's it. Now you've got to find out how to open it.
Don't tell me, don't tell me. I want to find it.
You're getting warmer.
I wonder if there's a button to press. Ah, there's a gap. Maybe I put my hand in here and pull.
Yeah?
There's a handle at the end, just like a door handle.
Exactly.
I can't imagine what it's going to reveal. Do you know, it's the most beautiful romantic room in pale pink and turquoise. Oh, can I go through?
Please do. Isn't it a wonderful room?
Absolutely. And gracious, is that an organ at the end?
Yeah, so that's a 1769 organ that's recently been restored and works perfectly again. It's actually called the music room, and it was built for this chap's coming-of-age party. This is Kitty William, the 3rd Viscount.
He looks pretty dandy, doesn't he?
He was the brother of 13 sisters.
He must have been spoilt rotten by them.
Exactly. Kitty's father died when he was only a teenager, so he very much became the man of the house. And of course, when he came of age, he wanted to make a real statement, and he threw a 3-day party over a weekend that we have the most amazing records of in the archive. We have some of them over here on the table.
That looks like an invitation.
Your very own invitation to Kitty's weekend celebration.
It's number 567.
Well, there were probably about 600 people invited to the weekend as a whole. The ball garnered amazing press and publicity, and there was a lovely article in the Exeter Evening Post.
Oh.
And it says Friday night was the masquerade, it being particularly observed that no black dominoes were to be admitted. And of course, it says that in handwriting on the front of the invitation.
What are black dominoes?
So black domino was just a black cloak that some people who weren't trying very hard would wear to a masquerade ball. And you say, well, you can't just half do it. You've got to wear a proper costume. And so Kitty was incredibly keen that everybody should dress up.
They ate at 1 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm ready for bed. And the tables were laden with young meat, fruits, preserves.
And of course, the food that they served would have been a real statement of intent, and every single person invited to the supper was given a peach on their plate. And a peach in those days was the most exotic and expensive of fruits, but you were really impressing your guests. And it really launched Kitty into society as a man of great substance.
As a young man, it seemed Kitty enjoyed a charmed life, but in later years, his fortunes changed.
His story then got rather tragic. He developed an affection for a young man called William Beckford. And when they were quite young, they were discovered together in bed at Powdram, and a scandal broke. And that forced Beckford to be exiled. Kitty stayed at Powdram, lived here, but in 1805, someone filed gross indecency charges against him, and he fled, caught a ship bound for Manhattan Island for New York, and in 1815, when Napoleon fell, he moved to Paris. He never returned until he did so in his coffin, and he's buried in Powdram Church. And when I was growing up at Powdram as a kid, there was a huge shame around the gay 3rd Viscount, or the flamboyant 3rd Viscount, as he was told.
How sad.
We had no record of what Kitty was doing during the time he was in exile. And the assumption was this reprobate was just living it up in France and in America. And then only about 10 years ago, these letters were found in a coal chute in Hampton Wick in South London. and they are the correspondence between Kitty and his lawyer, and he is managing the estate on behalf of Kitty. And this correspondence tells them all about the project for building a chapel at Star Cross, for which Kitty has donated the land and an endowment. And so this character that we all grew up knowing as this sort of reprobate, dissolute man who just left is shown to be the most conscientious landowner, really caring for the castle, for Star Cross, for the estuary. And it brings him completely back to life.
Celebrating Kitty's story is just one of the ways Charlie and AJ are breathing new life into Powdram. It's been exactly 2 years since they took over, so tonight, to mark the occasion, they're having a party, and they've chosen a venue that was dear to Kitty's heart.
AJ, where are you taking me today?
Well, I'm taking you to a very special place. It's one of the treasures that I feel is a hidden gem because it hasn't really been open to the public. I get really excited going this way.
It is. It's really lovely coming down here because it's almost like a tunnel of trees.
For decades, this woodland garden created in the 1770s was overgrown and neglected. Now, AJ and Charlie are bringing it back to life.
Just look at that. It is in the middle of nowhere. It is so beautiful.
And turn around
It's a folly. Look at that.
I know.
It's really rather theatrical. You can imagine a Shakespearean play being here and the audience flanked.
For me, I just see Midsummer Night. Shakespeare, this is made for it.
So what's the story behind this folly?
So the folly is built by Kitty Courtney, the third Viscount, to entertain. So Kitty would throw lavish parties, and this would be the setting.
Perfect place for a party.
Perfect place for a party. And this is the 2-year anniversary of us moving into the house. So we are thanking our staff and our local community. I mean, we've had massive support from the local community. So it's really just a thank you party and letting everyone just be in this space and relax and enjoy it.
And you're going to feed them?
Yes, I might need some help.
The garden is being transformed into a magical space for this special celebration. Meanwhile, I have a job to do too. I'm making a luxurious fruit pud using fresh Devon ingredients inspired by Kitty's extravagant birthday party.
Kitty did things in great style. He gave everybody a peach, which was a sheer luxury at that time. So in Kitty's honour, I'm going to make a pudding with peaches, and I'm calling it a peach posset.
First, I'm going to skin 6 ripe peaches.
I'm going to drop them into boiling water and then loosen the skin, just like you do for a tomato.
As soon as the skin starts to loosen, plunge them in cold water to cool down.
Then it's a matter of just peeling them gently. And doing it like this means, can you see, you get that lovely, mottly pink colour. If you try to do it with a knife, you lose all that.
Next, chop the peaches into cubes.
I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of light muscovado sugar. That gives it a nice tinge of gold. And then some brandy. Adding the brandy to the peaches means, 1, it gives a terrific flavour, and 2, it stops it discolouring, because you wouldn't like little brown pieces at the bottom.
2 tablespoons is enough.
Then I'm going to just stir that all together. And you leave that to marinate. I like this recipe because it's so easy, so simple.
And now for the topping, a traditional English dessert called a posset.
My interpretation of a posset is lemon, cream, and sugar. Often it's in a glass on its own, but the addition of peaches makes it very special.
Add the zest and juice of a large lemon to a pan.
And 75 grams of caster sugar.
And 300 ml of double cream.
And stir it gently until it comes to the boil. It's really a bit like thick custard, but I promise you it tastes a far cry from that. As soon as it's bubbling, take it off the heat, pour that into the jug and let it cool.
Now divide the peach mixture between 6 glasses, leaving space for the posset topping.
Make sure that they are pressed down so that the liquid is level, and that means the posset won't run down the side. I like it when there's not too much of this lovely, rich, lemony topping and masses of fruit underneath. Quite pleased with that. 4 hours, they will be set. I usually do it overnight because I like to get ahead.
When they're fully set, they're ready for the finishing touch.
You could do all sorts of things. You could put any edible flower, pansies or a tiny nasturtium, but I've got some borage here. So you just catch hold of the middle like that and pull off the stalk. I would like to put 3 in the middle of each one. It's very delicate, it's very summery, and it looks as though you've taken extra trouble. I think those look very, very special, perfect for a party.
The time for the celebration has finally arrived. I can't wait to see the garden in all its party glory.
Hi, Mary.
Isn't this enchanting? You've worked so hard. And look, it's all laid. How many are you expecting?
About 3 million.
Are we?
Hello!
Oh, she's got so many.
Running a place like Powdram requires a huge team effort.
Are you excited?
Yes. Mary, this is Anita and Lise.
Hello.
Two local families who have sort of helped us out over the past couple of years an awful lot.
Friends, family, staff and neighbours, everyone who has helped Charlie and AJ since they took over has been invited to this very special celebration. And there's a wonderful feast in store for them.
You and AJ have made me so immensely welcome, and what a finale this is. It is just magical.
And I hope they all enjoy my contributions. My crispy midsummer salad.
Delicious.
Yes, I can.
Absolutely delicious.
And of course, that special Powdram Pud, my delicate peach posset. It's a very informal celebration for a very informal family.
It's the 2-year anniversary of Charlie and I driving up with the kids in a moving van to a castle. And I want to thank all of you for being a part of our adventure. And it's true. Fairy tales happen. Cheers to all of you.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, Mary, thank you. You've been so brave, braving the sailing and the attics and the curried cockles.
They're good.
So thank you, Mary, and thank you, everybody, for making this really special.
I've loved every minute of my visit to Powdram, a very different stately home. It's a place with over 600 years of history and tradition, both a family home and the heart of a vibrant community. And it's wonderful to see how a new generation is keeping it safe for the future. Next time, I visit Goodwood, where the March family have breathed new life into a great estate.
What did I tell the grandchildren? Laugh at Goodwood.
I get to peek below stairs.
So here we go, Mary. This is where I keep my secret stash.
And bake for a magnificent cricket tea.
So fresh. If it falls apart, it's not my fault.
Britain is world famous for its stately homes. And when it comes to food, our country houses were the tastemakers.
Curry and cockles. It's an absolute first for me.
In this series, we'll sample delicious dishes.
They look wonderful, Mary.
And enjoy the lavish hospitality that these homes were celebrated for.
Absolutely stunning.
I'll show you how to cook tasty modern recipes inspired by the history of our great houses.
This is actually Napoleon's chair from Waterloo.
Mind you, I could do with a cushion. Join me as I meet the families who own these exceptional homes.
The best thing about the staircase, obviously, is going down on a tray or on your bottom.
And find out what it's really like to live,
That looks quite saucy.
work,
It was very like cutting a hedge.
I think you're better at baking.
and party in the nation's most beautiful stately homes.
I'm not going to drop it.
This week, I'm visiting Highclere Castle, the home of the Victorian house party. I feel just like Lady Mary, where I'll be joining a very special dinner. This is your invitation to dine at some of Britain's grandest tables in some of the most beautiful houses in the land. I'm in Hampshire, 60 miles west of London. I'm on my way to explore one of the most significant houses in England. It's Highclere Castle, although it's probably better known to millions of TV viewers around the world. Wow, as Downton Abbey.
There it is, peeping between the trees, Highclere Castle. It is truly magnificent.
For nearly 200 years, Highclere has hosted some of the most glamorous and influential weekend house parties in British high society. Now, I've been invited in too.
Hello, good morning, welcome.
What a glorious day.
It is fantastic.
It feels so familiar from watching Downton, but it's also somehow different. I'm here to find out what and who keeps a home like this going in today's world.
Can I take your coat and hats?
Thank you.
I'm meeting Fiona, 8th Countess of Canavan, who lives here with her family and 7 dogs.
Quite a welcome. How lovely to meet you. What a treat.
I am thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you for coming.
Hello, what a family you have. Hello,
I'm
you.
so
And
very
this is
happy.
one of your puppies.
This is little Evie, and she's just like a little lapdog, aren't you? She's very cuddly.
Hello, Poppet. Well, you know why I love her, because I have Darcy at home, and you look as though you're first cousin. Isn't she lovely? So how long have your family been here?
Since 1679. So the family been here for sort of 350 years. And before that, it was owned by the church. People have lived here since 749 AD. So I'm looking after something which is stately and something which is a home, which matters a lot to me, and sharing it with friends and family. What is more important? And it's living in the now for something I'm trying to preserve for the future.
And so how many can you have to stay here? Hello, Poppet. Yes.
I'm happy having, I suppose, about 20 people to stay, I think that's enough. I'm not a hotel. But there are 200 to 300 rooms in this house.
Wow.
So it's, and there are.
What happens behind that gallery up there?
Well, the main bedrooms and all the guest bedrooms run all around this gallery. And you can walk round down the stairs and pretend you're Lady Mary if you want to be, or some of the, illustrious guests from the past.
In the Victorian era, Highclere Castle was renowned for hosting the most prestigious weekend house parties. The weekends were partly for matchmaking among the gentry, but the house parties also had a major influence on business and politics.
You're very famous for your house parties. Tell me more about them.
I think the weekend house parties began because this Highclere provided an environment where cabinet ministers, politicians, diplomats could sit and discuss over dinner challenging matters of the day. And, for example, the fourth Earl drafted the Canadian Constitution here, which became the Dominion of Canada on the 1st of July, 1867.
It's a home that oozes history, and the fact that it's only a short distance from London no doubt allowed the more powerful guests to come and boosted the impact of the parties held here.
Mary, would you like to see some more of this house?
I would love to.
Then let's go this way.
OK, come on, chaps.
Everybody come.
Highclere was designed with entertaining in mind. From the grand saloon for receiving important guests, to the magnificent library, to the peaceful drawing room where the ladies retired after dinner.
This is a lovely room, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's so light.
The person who decorated this drawing room, Mary, was Almina, and she's one of the most important figures in Highclere's history. So there's a photograph of her when I think she was round about 19. And she was the illegitimate daughter of Alfred de Rothschild. She was his only daughter. He adored her. So when she married the 5th Earl of Canavan, with whom she was madly in love, he gave her a dowry with some £500,000, which in those days was such a lot of money, perhaps £60 million in today's terms.
That'll do a lot of restoration and building and whatever, wouldn't it?
The 5th Earl married an heiress. Jolly useful thing to do.
In the 19th century, Highclere was the house to be invited to. I'm told that Benjamin Disraeli, soon to be Prime Minister, and even Prince Bertie, the future king, have parted here. But entertaining on that scale required more than beautiful rooms. It required staff. And through an unassuming door in the corner of the saloon lies another world.
This is the green baize door.
So this was to muffle the sound?
It was. So we're now in the staff part, and these stairs go the whole way up, so the housemaids and the footmen could operate with never being seen by the guests or the family. Look at the number of stairs up here. It's extraordinary.
Goodness gracious, it's almost to heaven. You didn't need the gym.
No.
These stairs must have been busy. I'm told there used to be more than 50 household staff. There were chambermaids upstairs and cooks in the basement kitchen, where Lady Canavan takes me next, an astonishing 60 metres away.
Goodness gracious, this goes on forever.
This part hasn't been really seen on television because Downton filmed all the kitchen scenes in Ealing Studios, and our own kitchens have been where they've been for 1,000 years, but they really are used today to cook for all our tours and dinners, so they chose to create the kitchen scenes elsewhere.
Well, I'm privileged. I'm seeing something that the viewers didn't see.
It's the last part of the journey into the kitchen. We're nearly there.
It's a fair-sized kitchen.
It's a great kitchen.
It strikes me that it's an awful long way to the dining room. I should think how you keep the food hot, I don't know.
I gather Mrs. Mackey, one of the cooks in the 30s, used to chase the footman down the corridor saying, run, run.
Oh, gosh. It is very tall, so the kitchen wouldn't get too hot. And the windows are all quite high, so you've got maximum wall space.
In most old stately homes, the kitchen would be north-facing because then there was less light and the food was less likely to spoil. It would stay cooler. And you've then got an awful lot of space to cook in. It's a very practical, well-designed kitchen.
And the plates there. Now, is this the crest of the family?
Yes, we've just had them made again. This is a brand new set. And I've copied Almina, the 5th Countess's design, more or less. So it's quite fun, isn't it? I've done enough for a small group of friends. I've done enough for 80 people to sit down.
80 people. But they're beautiful. So how important was the food for the reputation of the house?
To me, the food we deliver, the dinners, the suppers, they matter enormously, and I want people to enjoy it and to be impressed by Paul, our chef's cooking. He's excellent.
And so still today, you use this kitchen that's so far away?
There's not a day that I don't come into this kitchen, but now you're here, Mary, I really hope that you might cook with us as well, and I really look forward to that.
I'm itching to get going. Will you give me a hand?
I would love to, Mary. Thank you.
Since afternoon tea was an important part of the weekend house party, I think we should make an indulgent tea time treat. My raspberry tartlets with crème pâtissière. The crème pâtissière couldn't be easier to make. Start by warming 150 ml of milk with some vanilla extract.
Heat the milk until it's scalding hot, so you can just put your finger in and lift it out again. Meanwhile, I'm going to put an egg in here. Do you have hens here?
I do have hens. Nothing better than fresh eggs. Different colours, white eggs, blue eggs, brown eggs, and different sizes. And I used to have a hen which laid green eggs.
Did you? Very unusual hen.
Very unusual. Very good for boiled eggs for breakfast.
Add 25 grams of caster sugar and 25 grams of plain flour and whisk it all to a stiff paste.
Just until it's smooth. There it is. And then I'm going to put the milk into there in 2 lots. That's because I don't want the egg to separate. That looks smooth to me, and then in goes the rest of the milk. Now it looks like a thin custard.
But it'll thicken up nicely as soon as I put it back on the heat.
How about you giving it a jolly good beat? Fun. A bit of welly in there. You know, in earlier days, when we didn't have machines, the cooks used to have huge, great muscles, didn't they?
But there's a fruit biscuit recipe from 1811 we've got, and in the middle it says, stir for 2 hours, which seems a bit extraordinary when they're making it. I think it's just...
I think you've done really well. I want it really thick, and we'll put some cream in it.
How delicious.
Let the mixture cool thoroughly, then whisk in 75 ml of double cream.
So the crème pâtissière is made, and I reckon it tastes...
Can I taste it? It's my best special roll. That's delicious, actually. And the cream is absolutely scrummy.
I like to make my own short crust pastry, but you can buy ready-cooked cases if you're in a hurry. Then it's just a matter of placing fresh raspberries on top.
This is my smiley face. There we go. 2 eyes and a mouth. I'll do it properly, I promise. But anyway.
I can see you like having a good play with the children when you're baking.
Yes.
And for the glaze, heat some raspberry jam with a little water.
And that will slacken it down, and we just push it through the sieve so we don't get the seeds. That's it. And the aim is to put sort of minimum on and let it just run over. It's really to give a shine. That just looks perfect. Well, it's been lovely having you as my sous chef.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Come along.
Now's my chance to really play at being in Downton Abbey. Taking afternoon tea with a countess. This must be what it was like to be entertained here back in Highclere's house party heyday in the late 1800s.
They look wonderful, Mary. You are clever. That's delicious.
I can see people being very distracted with all the beauty of this room.
Well, it's quite a French room, isn't it, with all the gold, so it's rather beautiful.
And the views. Who else has got a backdrop of the wonderful folly at the back? It is beautiful, isn't it? You know, I think people might imagine, being a countess, that every day you sit down and have tea and you have Lewis serving you, even if nobody's about. Is that so?
Certainly not. I'm often making myself a really nice cup of tea, but I'm having it often at my desk in my office. And it is a hands-on job, whether you're working in the office or finding that you need to ring an electrician, or you've got various great friends. Steve the roofer's a great friend. You always need a good roofer. The plumbers were here today. There's marketing to be done, emails to be answered, laughter to be had as we go about every day's business. There's a long list, and actually, I don't think my husband disclosed quite the length of the list when he asked me to marry him.
It's clear that taking on a house like this is a huge responsibility, and I can imagine the maintenance bills are endless. So this luxurious home has had to evolve partly into a business. And to find out more, I'm meeting Fiona's husband, Geordie, 8th Earl of Canavan. We are introduced by the castle manager, in keeping with proper protocol.
Mary.
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome to Highclere.
I'm very thrilled to be here.
The Earl is, after all, the Queen's godson.
Thank you, John.
Much of the 5,000-acre estate is a working farm.
We specialise in winter oats, which we process for feeding for performance horses like racehorses and polo ponies. And then for spring crops like spring malting barley, and this year we're doing spring beans.
And you have masses of sheep. How many have you?
Well, we have about 1,600 ewes, and there'll be about 2,500 lambs. And nowadays, we very much use the sheep to help control all this very big area of grassland we have in the park here.
This beautiful parkland, as well as being part of the house, is regularly open to the public. Highclere also has a long-standing reputation for hosting top-quality game shooting weekends.
Highclere's been involved with game shooting all the way back from the end of the Victorian and Edwardian period, when it was one of the sort of heights of recreational entertainment for country house parties and that kind of thing.
So is shooting the main part of the business here, or is it just a small part?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a vast part of the business, but I would say it was a relevant part of the business, especially with the seasons, and also because the game doesn't get used in restaurants, and we serve game ourselves here in the castle in the autumn.
It's terribly good for us.
It is. It's very low fat, natural,
Yes.
low cholesterol, and very tasty. And as you know, you can cook it in many different ways.
Pheasant shooting is out of season between March and October. But the gamekeepers stay busy clearing woodland, rearing birds and training their dogs. Lord Canavan introduces me to gamekeepers Eddie Hughes, Tom Hibbard and Val Maskell.
Hello, Valerie. I have never seen a bevy of spaniels behaving so beautifully.
Yes, they are perfectly disciplined and well behaved.
They're all so quiet and happy, aren't they?
And no profits.
Like my Darcy, these dogs are all spaniels, a breed which originally came from Spain, hence the name Spaniel. They've been used as hunting dogs since at least the 15th century, with Springer Spaniels trained to flush or spring birds from their ground nests. The smaller Cocker Spaniels tended to be used for hunting woodcock. Val Maskell has been training and breeding gun dogs all her life.
So, Val, how long have you been here at Highclere?
Well, I've been here nearly 20 years on the estate with Eddie.
Gosh, that's a good innings. And so when do you start training the dogs? Do they have to be a certain age?
Well, I start to train them as soon as possible. I always live indoors because somebody tried to steal them one night when they're out in the kennels. You know, you don't want to take the risk of losing them.
And I bet they'd rather be in your kitchen than anywhere else.
They certainly would, yes. Yes, lots more cuddles.
So are you going to put them through their paces?
Yes, we let them hunt around and then we'll fire a shot. They all have to sit down and then we'll throw a dummy for them. And then one dog is selected to fetch that dummy and bring it back to me and put it in my hand. OK.
White. Marty. Marty.
Oh, you clever boy. Good boy. Sit there. White. A wonderful job, Marty. Well done, Marty. Good boy. Spending time with the gamekeepers has given me an idea for a recipe. Game has been a prominent part of the menus at Highclere for 200 years, so I'm going to make a rich pheasant casserole that could be used for the gamekeeper's lunch.
First of all, I'm using a big pan, and I'm going to make sure that it's hot before I fry all the meat. So I'm just turning that up, and I've got a brace of pheasants here. I've got prime birds. Put a little bit of oil in the bottom, just enough to cover the base. Expect to sizzle, because I've got this pan hot. Keep turning and just get them brown. It'll all add to the flavour.
Once the meat is browned, put it to one side. Then in the same pan, fry the bacon. I'm using smoked for extra flavour, along with roughly chopped onion and celery.
In goes the celery. So again, keep that stirring all the time. And when it's all very, very hot, I'll add the flour. Sprinkle that in. And it's important to make sure every bit is covered in the flour. Don't worry about that deep golden brown at the bottom. That will all come up when I add the stock.
I'm using pheasant stock, but you can use chicken if you prefer. And you could use cider, although I find cloudy apple juice gives it a warmer, fuller flavour.
Right, we need a little bit of Worcester sauce. That just sharpens it up. Little red currant jelly. Any fruit jelly will do, just whichever one you've got in the cupboard. Doesn't really matter.
Add seasoning and fresh bay leaves.
There they are. Then I'm going to tip all the meat in there. Now, that is quite a good colour, but it's a little bit grey, so I'm going to do a little bit of gravy browning, just a dash. Go easy on it because it's quite dark, and it's just caramel colouring. And that really does look rich and good.
Then it needs simmering on a low heat for around 1.5 to 2 hours, or until really tender. Mushrooms go in for the last half hour, so they stay firm. Then it's ready for the gamekeepers. I'm serving it simply with green veg and mash to let the pheasant flavour shine.
I hope you're starving, because I've been toiling away all morning and I want you to eat it all. Right, can you take the little It's blooming hot. There we are, Val. Yeah, I know you went without breakfast this morning, so you must be starving. Pass it down the line.
Wonderful, thank you, Mary.
I'm told at the end of the 19th century there could have been up to 100 gamekeepers, helpers and staff on a single shoot weekend. I'm glad I haven't got to cook for all that lot.
So when you have a shoot here, how many people come?
You've probably got 25 to 30 people to be in here lunchtime. Yeah.
And there must be some very well-behaved dogs here, I should think, because it could be chaos.
There is occasionally.
Most of you have been working here for many, many years, and what is it that you like? Because obviously none of you seem to leave.
Well, it's the atmosphere of the place. We all get on well together, don't we?
Yeah.
All of us.
Camaraderie. Eddie does a shooter's meal. Sorry, Eddie and Valerie do a shooter's meal. Sorry, Val. They prepare a meal for what we call the team or the family.
Eddie's a very good cook.
I carry the things in and out, mainly.
I must say, it's very nice, Mary.
Is it?
Very nice.
Very good, yeah.
Very
Oh, good.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you.
The top-class shoots were a key feature of the weekend house parties that made Highclere such an influential and sought-after place to visit. And it was the 5th Countess, the young Lady Almina, who, just months into her new life here, had to host perhaps the most influential guest of all.
Her father wanted to make sure that she was fully accepted into high society, and he arranged for the Prince of Wales, His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, who was going to become later Edward VII, to come and stay at Highclere. So it was an extraordinary, extravagant 3-day party and shoot. That's what she was in charge of at just 19.
Lady Canavan shows me the bedroom that Almina had redecorated specially for the future king.
All in red, very royal.
So these are the original silk wall hangings from 1895.
Good gracious, it must have been a very good quality to have stayed this standard.
And I think this bed was brought in for the Prince of Wales. It doesn't look so big today, but yet king-size sheets don't necessarily fit it very well. It is quite a large bed.
The prince was a very robust man, was he?
Yes, he was quite a large man with a girth that testified to his love of food, I think you might say. Yes.
And he would have been waited on hand, foot and finger.
Completely. He demanded the best. So the best bedrooms, the best decorations, the best food, champagne, wine. So if you had him to stay quite often or longer than a weekend, you know, you could find yourself dipping deep into your pockets to try to pay for it all.
Luckily, with Almina's huge wealth, she was able to go to town for this very special weekend house party. Delving deep into the family's private archives reveals what it takes to entertain a demanding 44-year-old prince.
Mary was so lucky to have this account book of special entertainments with HRH, the Prince of Wales, December 1895. It just shows you the quantity of foods, of provisions, the amount of decorating, refurbishment that was done, the carpets, the hire of marquees. It's just endless. I mean, I think in today's terms, Almina spent about £500,000 on entertaining the Prince of Wales for 3 days.
All for just one weekend.
Which was just 2 evenings, if you think about it. And then he was on the train again.
Have you any idea what was actually served on the main evening dinner?
So from my research from this particular weekend, I've constructed what I think is a very likely selection of dishes. The Prince of Wales was very keen on oysters. It was a very good, safe starting point. There were always 2 soups, a thin soup and a thicker soup, so consommé, clare and kokaliki.
The soups were followed by 6 further courses, served one after the other, as was the new fashion. There could have been more than 20 different dishes.
Finally ending with a buffet.
A buffet? I bet there were some good leftovers.
Yes, I think the staff must have ate well. And of course, the Prince of Wales then had a small buffet up in his bedroom in case he became hungry during the evening.
With food as her secret weapon, the visit was a triumph for Lady Almina, securing her a place in English society and cementing Highclere's reputation for distinguished parties. And today is little different. Current royalty have also been entertained here. Lady Canavan is inviting a few friends to a house party. I've been asked to join them, and also to suggest a recipe to serve at the main dinner. All this talk of royalty makes me think of the perfect dish. My succulent cannon of lamb, served on a crispy celeriac potato cake with a luxurious fresh mint gravy.
Now, cannon of lamb is the saddle of lamb. It's the eye of the meat.
and it's very expensive, but it is something that is so special, so tender, and quite easy to serve. It's for a great celebration.
Having seasoned the meat with salt and pepper and lightly brushed it with oil, I'm browning it in a really hot pan.
I want to do this as quickly as possible. You can see by the smoke, it's really, really, really hot. Now already I need to be turning it. The reason for me sealing the meat before I roast it, it gives a wonderful colour. So you have to stand here and let it smoke, straighten your hair, doesn't matter. I'll get some rosemary here. There's an abundance of herbs to choose from here, which is wonderful. So put that underneath each piece, so that will permeate through the meat. Now that will be brown. There. That is beautifully sealed, just what I wanted. Done really, really fast. I'm going to sit those on the top. It's got to have 8 minutes roasting.
So in it goes to a hot oven at 200 degrees fan.
To go with that very glamorous cannon of lamb, I decided to make potato cakes, but with a difference, with celeriac. The two flavours go very well together. So you need 350 grams of potatoes and 250 grams of celeriac. I've grated the potato and the celeriac using the coarse grater, put it in a tea towel to get every little bit of wet out of it. This is something that's got to be done at the last minute, otherwise the celeriac goes brown. So salt and pepper.
Divide the grated veg into equal-sized piles and squash them down to make patties.
You've got to be firm and you've got to use force, and it will begin to stick together. That's it. It's the starch in the potato which is holding it all together.
Then they're ready for frying, but make sure your pan is nowhere near as hot as it was for the lamb.
Notice how I'm pushing the sides in so they don't all join up. And good news, you can make these ahead and reheat them.
Fry them until golden brown on each side.
Cook them too quickly and you'll find that they will burn underneath and it won't be done in the middle. So I've turned the heat down and doing them very, very gently.
Serve with a traditional gravy enriched with port and freshly chopped mint from the garden.
That looks pretty good to me, so that needs to go into the gravy, like that. I'm going to taste it and see that it really is sheer perfection to serve with that lamb. That's pretty good.
To me, that's a dish fit for a prince.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am that I'm going to be at this great dinner party that Lady Canavan is going to give, and she's chosen to have this wonderful lamb dish. I so hope they enjoy it.
Whether the guests are visiting royalty, weekend house guests, or paying public, the rooms here have to be kept in first-rate condition. There's a never-ending list of jobs that keeps the 14 household staff rather busy.
It'll look much more spectacular here. It was rather hidden around a corner before.
It's got really good light here, hasn't it? I think it's pretty good to keep out of the way here. It must be very, very heavy.
It's the frames, and my goodness, David, that's very high.
Good.
And the top is a picture rail there, is it? And it'll hook over.
There is.
That's it down. That's it. The other down. Okay. Happy?
No, left a bit with your left hand, David. It's not quite vertical.
Is it tipping down on the top left-hand corner a little bit?
Yes.
Looks like...
It's a bit cockeyed.
50? Don't drop that.
Yeah, I think so, John. Actually, brilliant. Thank you very, very much.
You've got a great team of people here. Who are they all and what do they all do?
I have, well, I don't know, Matthew, you do multitasking, afternoon teas, help me with dogs, feed the chickens when I can't do that. I can't think what you came here to do, but that's what you do now.
I'm doing what I came here to do.
Come on, what was the job description like when you came?
No, I think it was pretty much whatever I needed to do.
Oh, good.
Walking dogs, helping butlering in the castle, and then it's just grown since then.
And which part do you enjoy most?
It's all of it. It's very varied. So it's fun. It is really good fun working here.
And then, Pat, I don't know how long you've been here for, which way exceeds me, doesn't it?
Yeah, 57 years now.
57 years?
Yes, yes. Gosh. We do painting and decorating all the way around, whether it's in the castle or around the estate.
I hope you're not going up ladders.
No. Thanks to Lady Canavan, no, I don't anymore. She banned me.
Right. So how many have you got in your team?
There's 3 of us. Mike is one and young Richard's the other. I call them the boys.
The boys?
One's coming to 80 and the other one's coming 48.
One's coming?
80. I come for 75, so...
And no sign of retirement?
No.
Not allowed to.
No. I'm just going to say that.
I understand that, I can tell you. You just keep going, it's much better.
And then on a Friday, every so often, we all have fish and chips together.
Lovely.
Pat goes and gets fish and chips from the local fish and chip shop, and we sit down, and wherever we are...
We hide.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
My husband doesn't think I should be having fish and chips, but I think it's excellent.
Well, it's a great thing to share.
And then John Gantel, who's our castle manager, which I'm not quite sure what's on your CV either.
I'm not quite sure I've got a true job description either, but it does include everything.
We do some large events, and that takes a lot of planning. The team are a relatively small team, very hard-working, and you've got to have some good humour and good nature in it, otherwise it just doesn't gel, and that's the magic gel that makes it work for us all, I think.
And after a hard week, everybody has some fish and chips. I like that idea.
I've never been invited, Mary, so I will know that. I will look more diligently at Friday lunchtimes for my fish and chip invitation.
Have I put the cat amongst the pigeons?
Yes, I think you have. It's all Pat's
It
fault.
looks as though you might have to have somebody else adding to it.
Yes, I think I might, Mary.
Cut!
Now, there's one more member of the team I really must meet. Paul Brooke-Taylor cooks for the family as well as for public events.
Right place, right time.
Absolutely.
Lovely to meet you.
You too, Mary. Thank you.
So how did you come to get here?
I was in a very big hotel corporation chain, and I found that as soon as you become head chef, you stop cooking. I wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to cook. But no, 9 years ago, it's flown by, to be honest.
So you got the job?
I did, yeah. I took over a sleepy little castle. It was lovely. We did the odd posh wedding, and then they did a TV show here, and my life changed.
What's the biggest number you have for tea?
A wedding, we'll cap at 120. If it's family dining, we'll do 30. Afternoon teas, we do over 110 a day when we're open to the general public.
I mean, you're 2 chefs now. Going back 100 years ago, how many would have been in here?
I have this conversation with Lord Canavan a lot. I've got to be honest, his team back then was a lot bigger, but it was 1 chef per job. I think now it's a case that we have more equipment, we have better ovens. It's not such manual labour. And it was a totally different environment. This house has had to change to match today's society and make some money.
Opening the house to the public is a relatively recent change, but the Canavan family have been in the public eye throughout their history. None more so, perhaps, than Lord Canavan's great-grandfather, George Herbert, the 5th Earl. He was an early pioneer in travel photography.
And there's that rather wonderful drawing of him with his lucky hat on and his cigarette in his right hand.
Oh, how lovely. What I like is the lucky hat.
Wow.
It's looking pretty worn and dented.
So that portrait does have a touch of Indiana Jones about it, but you can see the extraordinary character of the man. He was the late Victorian Edwardian eccentric adventurer.
One great friend of his and a regular visitor here was the famed archaeologist Howard Carter. I'm told that together in these very rooms they would plan their expeditions to Egypt, where they made one of the world's most significant archaeological discoveries, the tomb of Tutankhamun.
This is very much the area he worked in, but here we are now in the Valley of the Kings. I think in very early 1923, just only within 2 months of him actually discovering the tomb of Tutankhamun in November 1922 with Howard Carter. And there's the famous steps down to the tomb. And there's my great-grandfather, the 5th Earl, on the left, and Howard Carter on the right, looking very dapper. The two men's stoic persistence in the heat and dust and flies of the desert paid off in the greatest archaeological find. I'm chapter of the time.
Huge smiles, and also look at their dress. I mean, they've got waistcoats on.
Yes, I think there was a strong tradition of rather wintry British dress and rather a warm climate, even in Egypt. And can you imagine when they first break down the door of the antechamber of the tomb? And my great-grandfather says to Carter, well, can you sing then? Can you sing? What's happening? What's happening? They're all in a high state of excitement because actually they'd found all this rubbish had been piled up everywhere. And Carter had been in previous tombs. Well, and there was nothing the other side of the door. But this time he says, yes, I see wonderful things, and there's everywhere the glint of gold.
Well, I shall not forget the look on their faces. I mean, it's magical, isn't it?
No, the whole thing is, it was such a time of such excitement, and it was such bad luck for my great-grandfather that he didn't live to see so many of the wonderful objects that finally came out of the tomb. He went off to take a few days' rest down the river, which was when he was bitten by the fateful mosquito in March 1923.
And what happened after that?
Eventually, he returned to Cairo with blood poisoning, but sadly, in the end, succumbed to pneumonia. And he died in the hour of his triumph, and because he never actually saw the wonderful golden mask.
Nonetheless, Lord Carnarvon was assured of a place in archaeological history.
When you were a boy, was it very exciting growing up with all these stories?
Well, the strange thing was, I used to wonder a lot about all this, but my grandfather was very reticent about it. Really? And he was the one that hid quite a number of these incredible objects that we have here in dark cupboards between 2 rooms, and no one was ever allowed to see them, and he blocked up the entrance either side. I think he was very upset by the fact that his father had suddenly died when he really was quite young. And Egypt had, out of the blue, taken something away from him and totally changed his life. And my grandfather was just quite quiet about his father's work.
Thankfully, the current Lord Carnarvon keeps replicas of his great-grandfather's finds in a public museum deep in the basement, a tribute to this remarkable chapter in Highclere's history.
Gosh, that is sheer magnificence.
This is the glorious middle coffin, because the actual embalmed body was found nested inside 3 golden coffins, and this one's known as the middle one. It was absolutely covered in what's known as a rishi effect of semi-precious stones. And you see all the glory of all the colours, the reds, the blues, and the gold.
Well, it is absolutely spectacular. Wow. There it is. I know it's a replica, but isn't it magnificent?
It's an extraordinary replica to scale of the real golden mask. And this weighs around about 11 kilos, and it's an extraordinary amount of gold and one beautiful artistic object of the face of the boy king. Remember, he died when he was only about 19 or so.
It's so beautiful and gentle, the actual features.
Yes, they really are extraordinary. It's one of the world's greatest objects.
But the days of grand discoveries, sumptuous living, and weekend house parties at Highclere were numbered. The Second World War brought turbulent times, and the current Lady Carnarvon, a keen historian, has been unearthing some of the castle's wartime stories. She's arranged an expedition to show me evidence of an aeroplane that crashed here. Her team of plane hunters includes metal detector enthusiasts Paul McTaggart and Robert Coleman, and retired Concorde pilot Steve Bohill-Smith.
What are we looking for? What are we expecting?
Well, Mary, we've got some photographs to show you. It's a B-17, which is called a flying fortress. It crashed up on the top of the hill. There were usually about 10 people on board, but this was a training flight, and they had only 7 on board. And to search for it, we had to get permission from the MOD. You have to have a licence.
Really, on your own land?
Yes,
Oh,
it's called the Protection of Military Remains Act. So we had to do it properly. We had to get the landowner's permission, and then we had to get the MOD's permission as well.
I'm told the main bulk of the American plane was recovered a few days after the crash. But over the last few years, Lady Canavan and her team have collected dozens of smaller pieces of the wreckage that have been lying here untouched since the Second World War.
Perhaps I should explain what we think happened. They hit the trees, those big cedar trees up on the top, and they just came crashing down through the trees here, down the slope, and it basically exploded into a million bits. So you can walk along amongst the trees here, and you can actually see things in the undergrowth from the aircraft.
OK, Mary, this is a metal detector. Put your arm in there, and all you do is basically just wave it backwards and forwards.
what am I waiting for? A noise?
You're waiting for a noise. As soon as you go over a piece of metal, it'll squeak at you, and you'll know exactly. That's it. Close to the ground. The lower to the ground, the better it is.
What was that?
That was the signal. Right in the middle of that, and yeah, see, look, it's all over the place. It's just underneath the surface.
That wasn't digging for it or anything, but
no,
it was
there
just
was no
there.
digging because there's so much of it just up in the woods. Yeah, what you find inside?
Well, this was just on the bank up there.
Looks like a hatch of some description.
There's a hinge there, and there'll be another hinge somewhere else up there.
It's airframe, definitely.
It's amazing to think that this has been here 70-odd years.
And it was only 3 days before the end of the war, so absolutely tragic, really. They'd done their 30-odd missions, so this is where it all came to an end.
Rather sad.
Rather sad. Terrible, yeah.
But for me, it's something about understanding what happened to these young men who gave so much and doing some sort of memorial for them over in the castle gardens, looking up at this hill. It's the stories of husbands, of brothers, of sons who died fighting for all of us.
We're heading to one of Highclere's follies, known as Heaven's Gate. It was built over 250 years ago by the current Earl's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-uncle. With truly breathtaking views over the estate, it's a fitting place to reflect on the changing fortunes of Highclere since the Second World War.
What was the impact of the war on Highclere?
Highclere was commandeered by the Ministry of Health, and it became home for evacuee children. So suddenly there were between 25 and 50 tiny children aged 3 to 5 living on the top floor of the castle throughout the war with their teachers, nursing assistants. So the chef, therefore, was now cooking for 80 people a day, breakfast, lunch, and high tea for the children. It was a time of hardship. You had to really look after the food you were growing. Nothing was wasted. I mean, the vegetable garden here, the kitchen garden, was invaluable because it was very successful, and it not only supplied the castle and the children, but it could also supply beyond that as well.
After the war, things changed for the great estates, is that right?
It did. There was no money, no resources. Rationing still continued. It was a very tough time, so no one could afford to employ anybody either. And nor could you repair anything, because there was nothing to repair anything with. It's amazing this house survived, because I think during the 1950s, a lot of great houses of England were knocked down or destroyed.
What a sadness that was. The post-war era marked a turning point for Highclere's lavish house parties. The prestigious and glamorous weekends that sparked off adventure, shaped politics, and even created a country. In order to survive and prosper in the modern world, the house had to change. It had to become more businesslike and open its doors to the public. Nonetheless, this is still a home, and Lord and Lady Canavan still host house parties, albeit on a smaller scale than during Almina's time. And so tonight, I will be able to witness this wonderful home in all its dinner party glory. But first, I've been asked to choose our pud.
So, for the grand finale for this special dinner party, I'm going to make gooseberry and elderflower fool. It's luxurious, it's British, very, very special.
It's a classic English pudding, served at country house dining tables for hundreds of years. I'll be serving it with a delicate honey biscuit made with local honey.
In the pan, I've got 500 grams of gooseberries, 100 grams of caster sugar, a bit less if you like it sharp, and 3 tablespoons of Lady Canavan's homemade elderflower cordial, though of course you could buy it. Now I'm gently cooking that, squashing them down. You notice that I've got green gooseberries. If you're cooking with gooseberries, always pick them young and green. They're very bitter to eat like that freshly, but they're much better for cooking.
When they're soft, take the pan off the heat, remove about a quarter of the mixture to use later as a topping, then blitz the rest into a mush.
There we are. That's a mush. But if you put that just with the cream for a fool, you would have lots of pips which aren't very nice to eat. So that's why we're going to sieve it. You just need to force it through. So keep pressing. Now look at that. That is just pips, and I'll just discard it to one side. There we are.
Before you can mix it with the cream to make the fool, you'll need to chill the puree in the fridge until it's nice and firm.
Traditionally, you would add all double cream, but I've decided to make it a little bit sharper by adding yoghurt. And I've got 100 ml of full-fat yoghurt and 200 ml of whipped double cream. Start with pouring cream, it's easier to whip. So in it goes. Then I'm going to add the cream. So just beat that in like that, just until you've got no streaks. That's it. That looks perfect, a lovely smooth consistency, and I can smell the elderflower.
Serve in elegant glasses and top with the reserved compote.
And then, just to finish it, a little mint.
Fresh from the garden.
Don't always think of mint as being always to go with lamb. It's lovely to have on a pud. Just gives it a lift. So there you have it, our wonderful, luxurious British pud, all ready for that very special dinner party.
Talking of which, the household is starting to prepare for this evening's extravaganza. There's much to do, everything from seating plans, flower displays, to laying the table, which the butler, Luis Coelho, is in charge of.
Louis, I've come to see what you're up to. How's it all going?
It's going very well. I think we're pretty much set.
Well, it's all looking pretty magnificent.
The glasses come from Italy, and they are hand-painted in gold.
They do look really special. Now, you're the butler.
I am indeed.
What is it like to work in a house?
It's a great responsibility, and we've got a lot of standards, and we're serving like they served many years ago, so it's a tradition as well.
It's looking really lovely. All that's missing are the flowers.
5 acres of gardens and greenhouses at Highclere provide a ready source of fresh flowers and plants to decorate the staterooms on special occasions. The gardens used to be tended by a team of over 20 gardeners. Nowadays, it's just Paul Barker and his team of 2 who ensure a year-round supply of floral colour. Lady Canavan has been arranging flowers from the garden to provide a centrepiece for the sumptuous dining table. As the household prepares to receive this evening's guest, there's only one thing left for me to do: dress for the occasion. I feel just like Lady Mary in Downton Abbey. At the end of the 19th century, Highclere was the epitome of luxurious entertaining. The gatherings here had defined a generation. The parties have evolved since then, but they still bring people together to talk, laugh, to dine in an elegant style.
Mary, you look absolutely stunning. How lovely to see you.
Very exciting to see the salon so alive with people.
Can I offer you a drink before you go any further? There's a non-alcoholic or a champagne cocktail.
Thank you very much. To keep up my reputation.
Oh, good.
Compared to the house parties from a bygone era, this dinner party is more modest. But the guest list is just as varied, including a bishop, a gardener, and a cook. As the guests are summoned into the dining room, we're reminded of the special history of this house. The place names are written in Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Gracious me.
Can explain right to left.
Meanwhile, Chef Paul and his team have been cooking in the distant kitchens.
You got half a lemon there, Rob?
Then they whiz the cooked food along the long corridor to a plating room near the dining room. That's Paul's secret to serving my cannon of lamb while it's really piping hot.
Ready, George? Let's go.
It's like a military operation. Centuries-old traditions of hospitality meet entertaining in the modern world. It's a rare glimpse into the private side of a very public house.
You are a wonderful family, and thank you for welcoming us.
You're so kind, and we've really enjoyed this week as well. It's been great to know you. Thank you.
I will leave Highclere with great memories, especially of the people who work behind the scenes to keep this great house alive for everyone to enjoy. Next time, I visit Scone Palace, Scotland's crowning glory.
They were crowned on this very stone.
I'll cook up a feast fit for royalty.
I reckon you might have topped the chart with that.
And get a taste of the sport of kings. Look. I'm reeling with excitement for my Highland adventure. Britain is world famous for its stately homes. And when it comes to food, our country houses were the tastemakers.
Curry and cockles, that's an absolute first for me.
In this series, we'll sample delicious dishes.
They look wonderful, Mary.
And enjoy the lavish hospitality that these homes were celebrated for.
You look absolutely stunning.
I'll show you how to cook tasty modern recipes inspired by the history of our great houses.
This is actually Napoleon's chair from Waterloo.
Mind you, I could do with a cushion. Join me as I meet the families who own these exceptional homes.
The best thing about the staircase, obviously, is going down on a tray or on your bottom.
And find out what it's really like to live...
That looks quite saucy.
work.
It was very like cutting a hedge.
I think you're better at baking.
And party in the nation's most beautiful stately homes.
I'm not going to drop it.
This week, I'm visiting Goodwood, home to a unique family of innovators in sport and farming.
Hello, my little beauty.
And I'll be baking for a classic English cricket tea at one of the oldest cricket clubs in the world.
And do you like strawberries?
Yes.
There we are. This is your invitation to dine at some of Britain's grandest tables in some of the most beautiful houses in the land.
I'm on my way to Goodwood House in West Sussex, home to the Dukes of Richmond since 1697. The Earl of March and Kinrara, Lord March himself, is here to meet me.
Mary, hi.
Good March.
Hi, lovely to see you. Welcome to Goodwood. It's great to have you here.
What a grand car. It's a
It's lovely, isn't it? Yes, I know.
Rolls-Royce, no less.
Well, they're all made at Goodwood. The Rolls factory's at Goodwood, so yeah. So I thought you better be picked up in one.
Good gracious, and
Let me
it's so
take that.
shiny too. Sheer luxury.
Lord March took over the running of Goodwood from his father, the 10th Duke of Richmond, in 1994, after a career as an advertising photographer.
You've taken on a great legacy, but how did it all start at Goodwood?
Well, Mary, the first Duke was the illegitimate son of Charles II, and he bought a house here in 1697, and he bought it for the hunting.
Set in 12,000 acres, Goodwood occupies a magical position against a backdrop of the Sussex Downs.
Just look at that. Isn't that amazing?
It's a great house for entertaining. It's got these two very big wings, which you can see one of them we're facing, and then the private wings over to the left. But it was, of course, built to entertain.
The original house has been added to by successive dukes, and for 300 years, it's been the family's primary residence.
Here we are, Mary. Welcome.
Hard to think that this was a hunting lodge.
Well, the hunting lodge was sort of in the middle.
So the first Duke was descended from royalty?
He was, and he had many privileges too, being the king's son. He had a fantastic allowance which enabled him to do much of this.
With its distinctive copper domes and flint walls clad in scented magnolia, Goodwood House has splendid staterooms, but it's also the family's home, where Lord March lives with his wife and their children.
It must be really difficult to keep something of such magnitude going. It must be very expensive.
Well, it certainly it requires quite a bit of effort for sure. But we're very lucky. We've got all these activities, all these sports.
Lord March and his family come from a long line of innovators. For the last 350 years, they've made their mark on everything, from horse racing to cricket, motorsports and farming. And I'm here to discover how their pioneering history has shaped Goodwood as it is today.
We've got a very big thing going on down at the motor circuit, which I've got to disappear to in a moment. So I've asked Monty to come and look after you.
Hello, Mary. Good to see you.
Nice to be here.
Welcome to Goodwood.
Great, Mary. So I'll catch up with you later at our big party tonight.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Hope you have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
My visit coincides with a banquet tonight in honour of the start of the motor racing season, and it will end with a cricket match, naturally accompanied by a sumptuous cricket tea.
Thank you so much. You know, I could get used to this.
I'm sure you
do
could.
Do tell me, what are the main duties of a butler here?
Well, the main duty for me is to look after Lord March and the family. That's why they employ me. I'm here to make sure that their life runs smoothly. The other side is to make sure that all the guests that he invites, they have a great time when they come and stay with us. I know it can be really intimidating coming to a house like this and being invited.
Coming up those steps and you come into here with all these wonderful pictures, you need a little bit of comfort behind you.
You do.
These pictures that I'm looking at all seem to have horses in them.
I'll just put my glasses on and I'll explain to you a little bit. Whilst I've been here, I've had to learn a little bit of history of the house.
Right.
Because invariably Lord March is late.
Is he?
So, yes, because
he's got a lot on his plate,
he
no
has,
wonder.
He certainly has. So I thought it would be poignant if I'd learnt a little bit about the house and then I can tell the people while they're waiting. So they're all by the master painter Stubbs. These 3 paintings were commissioned by the 3rd Duke, who'd met Stubbs in London and invited him up to stay at Goodwood, and he actually stayed here for 9 months. The Chalkton Hunt, which is the first one that he painted, which was a little village just over the back of the racecourse. And anybody who was anybody in society went to that hunt. And all the hounds there's 10 pairs of hounds. And if you were here in 1759, you'd be able to recognise every hound. He painted it individually.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he obviously loved animals, horses mainly, but dogs as well.
Yeah.
Now, there's one thing that I want to see. There's a banquet tonight, and I want to know what's going on.
Right, let's go this way then. Follow me, Mary.
I love a party, and so I'm delighted that on my first evening here, Lord March is throwing a dinner for 300 of his motor racing chums.
Just watch your forks there. You just want to reverse them slightly. But it looks fabulous. Yeah, it looks great. Well done.
The dinner's a bit bigger than I'm used to hosting, but I imagine if you've got 48 staff beavering away behind the scenes, it's no problem.
Good gracious, that looks like real... Wait a minute. It is real grass.
It is real grass.
Straight on the table, or a little bit of plastic underneath.
A little bit of plastic underneath to protect the tablecloth, but hopefully we can recycle that, put it back in the ground.
It's so original. How on earth do you work out where everybody's going to sit?
Well, that's a good question. And the person who sorts that out is young Jo here. Let's go and meet her.
What a task you've got. How do you do it?
Well, Lord March does all the table plans himself.
What, for 300 people?
Yep.
So do you know where I'm sitting?
You're just down here next to Lord March.
Next to Lord March?
Next to Lord March.
Oh, I better mug up on my racing. Now, I'd like to see the kitchens. Do you think they're quite ready?
Just a few steps from the grandeur of the dining room, the chef in charge of tonight's menu, Mike Watts and his team, are hard at work.
What are we having tonight?
So we've got some mackerel, which is great, down from the south coast of England. And then for the main, we've got some pork belly, which is from our own farm, which is very nice.
And the pork belly, is it very slowly cooked?
We cook the pork belly for about 24 hours overnight. Bit of crackling, some black pudding, some applesauce, very classic.
And what about the pud?
And then the pudding is a chocolate marquise, which has got some pear running through it, a little almond paste on the bottom, and then that's going to be served with a poached pear and a salted caramel kind of mousse.
I think everybody's going to be chuffed to bits with all of that.
Fingers crossed.
Mike's clever to have chosen a cold first course. It's a trick I always use at home. It means you can spend more time with your guests.
Thanks, Colin. I'll get in behind you.
I've been promised I can try my hand in one of the house's 3 kitchens, and Monty is taking me down to his domain in a lift that has linked the main house with the servants' quarters for almost 90 years.
This is a very grand lift and beautifully polished.
Here we are, Mary. Out we go.
Fine.
Just this way.
This is your butler's pantry. It feels really cosy in here.
It is lovely and cosy, and I knew you'd like to cook, so here we are, the ideal place to come and cook.
You know, I can't wait to get going.
Inspired by tonight's big do, I'm going to show you how to make a cold starter of smoked salmon, asparagus and quail's eggs, which is one of the quickest ideas I know.
First of all, I'm going to cook the asparagus, and I'm going to do the eggs in the same pan, so I've cut down on the washing up. So this asparagus, I want it in slightly shorter pieces, and I want it all tender so you can eat the whole thing. So I'm just going to break these off. I can hear that coming to the boil, so I better be quick. In it goes in one go. I'm going to put just a little salt in there too. That's it.
They only need a couple of minutes to soften.
And look what a wonderful bright green those are.
Then run under cold water to keep that vibrant colour. I'm boiling the quail's eggs using the same water for just 2 minutes, so the yolks stay soft.
Now I'm going to make the dressing, and the dressing is very easy, but it's very piquant. First of all, I'm going to have some lemon juice.
The dressing really makes it. In go pepper and salt, lemon juice, light muscovado sugar, Dijon mustard, and oil.
What's lacking is the tarragon. So let's pop that to one side. And I expect I should be using about 3 sprigs like that.
Finely chop and in it goes. Remove the shells when the eggs are still warm. It's much easier.
Roll them with your hand like that, and you can feel the little crack. And then just get your nail underneath, gently pinch it to start. And look, that comes off like a dream. I've got some lovely, beautiful smoked salmon here. And rather than putting it on flat on the plate, which is boring, I'm going to put it just like that. So that's the start.
Now bring it all together. Finish the whole thing off with a drizzle of that flavoursome dressing and a sprinkle of celery salt.
So there you have it, a very elegant way of having smoked salmon, fit for a country house.
Since the 18th century, the magnificent staterooms at Goodwood have been the scene of some glittering entertaining. Before dinner begins, I sneak off for a moment to look at some of Goodwood's treasures.
Hello, Mary. You enjoying our candlettes?
I am indeed.
I'm James Peel. I'm the curator here.
Hello.
Lovely to meet you. They're our best work of art, so you've picked a good spot to stop. Now, I've got something I want to show you.
Right.
Which has a vague relation to food. Let me show you quite an interesting piece of furniture that we've got in the house.
How old is it? Whatever it is.
It's probably from the Regency period, but any ideas what it is?
Well, I see weights there, so I imagine that somebody would sit there and you'd put the weights there and add until you got to the actual weight of the person. I'm not sure.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's a weighing chair. And if you were a guest here, you'd actually have your weight recorded. This is one of the more famous guests that used to stay here, the Prince of Wales, future Edward VII.
Only, he's just 12 stone 6.
12 stone 6, this is in his youth.
Very creditable. Yes. Now, tell me, does this happen at other great houses?
Yes, there obviously was a tradition of weighing, a bit like people signing the visitor's book. They had fun just weighing each other.
I think I'd rather sign the visitor's book.
Hi, Mary. Hi. I'm so sorry I abandoned you.
That's all right.
I hope you've been all right. They've been looking after you.
He has indeed.
We haven't had the opportunity to be weighed yet.
My weight is between me and my maker, and there's no way I'm going on that.
Quite right. We've all avoided it for years. Anyway, the party beckons. We need to go through.
I'm ready. I'll take my drink.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Come with me.
See you later.
I don't know much about motor racing, but there are some famous faces here, and even I recognise David Coulthard on the table next to me.
And you love entertainment.
Entertaining has always been a hugely important part of what goes on here at Goodwood, and perhaps the most famous party of all was given by the fourth Duchess, actually in Brussels, not here, because they had a house in Brussels at the time, and it was just before Waterloo, and they knew Napoleon was on his way, and it was actually during this famous party that the messenger arrived and gave him the news that Napoleon had crossed the border, and the officers then left their wives.
In all their kit.
They were in their party clothes, and they left, and they fought Quatre Bras that night in their tailcoats and their dancing shoes, and they went straight on and fought Waterloo the following night, and many of them were found dead on the battlefield, still wearing their white tie. And in appreciation of that, amazingly, Wellington then gave the family Napoleon's campaign chair, which actually I still sit in.
You've got it here?
I've got it here, yeah. No, we're very lucky.
Promise me I can go and have a look.
Yeah, you can have a look. You can have a sit in it.
Oh, good.
With a day at the motor circuit ahead, Lord March always starts with a good breakfast, and I've got just the thing. My race day breakfast is a savoury feast of mushrooms and tomatoes topped with a Welsh rarebit made from the estate's own cheese.
I've got 4 mushrooms here and a little butter in the pan first to melt. That's it. So I'm just going to rub those round to see that they're really covered in butter all the way round.
They've always had big breakfasts here at Goodwood, and way back into the Edwardian house party. In fact, I've got a quote here from one of the guests about what they ate at breakfast. And it was tea and coffee, bacon, grilled kidneys on toast, fish, kedgeree, eggs of all sorts, poached, boiled, scrambled and fried and done up in every way. For those who preferred a solid and appetising second course,
good gracious,
there were devilled bones.
Devilled bones? Could you please tell me what devilled bones?
I have not got a clue what devilled bones are.
So you can see that just a little bit of juice is coming out from them, so that's the time to lift them out. And again, knowing that you're very busy here, you can do this amount of all ahead and just assemble it at the end.
In the same pan, fry the tomatoes a minute on each side. Then whisk 2 eggs, adding Dijon mustard and a splash of Worcester sauce. Add 100 grams of cheese and mix.
Now we can assemble it. First of all, start off with the mushrooms, like this.
On top of each mushroom, place the fried tomato slice, then a generous spoonful of the cheese mixture.
There we go,
Looks
all
an absolute
done.
treat.
So that'll be absolutely delicious and not too heavy, and you won't need any of those devil bones afterwards.
We certainly won't.
To finish off, grill for 6 to 8 minutes, or until the cheese is melted and lightly golden.
There we go, Mary. They look a treat.
Don't they just?
There we go.
Right, so I'll start plating up.
Oh, I'll just get my cuffs down, ready for serving.
Look at that then. Perfect. Right, now that plate's very hot.
OK.
So how long will it take you to get up those stairs?
Just a couple of minutes.
Well, off you go. I might say I like the idea of having a butler. He's very efficient and I know he'll do it well.
Good morning, my lord. One racing breakfast.
Oh, Monty, fantastic.
There we go.
Thanks a lot. It looks delicious.
I do hope it's going down well with Lord March. I'm going up to join him in the family dining room, which gives me a chance to use this fabulous lift again.
Mary, hi. Lovely to see you. That was absolutely fantastic. Come and
Has
sit
it
down.
built you up for the day?
Delicious. God, it certainly has. I've eaten far too much.
Monty's been telling me about the Edwardian breakfast that seemed to go on forever for glorious Goodwood. But now you have many more sporting events.
We do, yes. I mean, Goodwood's very unusual. We have all these sports that have been going on here for over 300 years. Various members of the family have been kind of developing their own passions, and those passions turned into these great sports we have here. Horse racing, motor racing, golf, flying, shooting and cricket is our kind of mantra.
And golf is not your favourite sport, but...
That's very unkind.
Come on. But motor racing is, isn't it?
Well, cars I've always loved. My grandfather built the racetrack here after the war, and it became a big event each year over Easter. And he sadly closed that in '66, much to my fury as a small boy. Well, let me just show you. It was an amazing... I wish I'd been there. Sadly, I wasn't. So that's my grandfather there at the very first Goodwood meeting, September the 18th, 1948.
Oh, look at them.
Event.
They look like little toy cars.
Yeah. Well, these are little 500cc. That was like the first car Stirling Moss ever drove. And in fact, Stirling won that actual race. It was his very first motor race ever, and he won it here in one of those little cars. It was pretty hairy stuff. You can see, and the crowd are incredibly close.
And there's sort of no bales of straw or anything to stop them hitting the crowd.
My grandfather was a good artist too. He loved drawing little things in his albums and his books. And let me just show you these. These are rather charming.
Oh yes, all black and white, of course.
But he left Oxford early, and much to his parents' horror, he started racing fairly seriously. And some of these are really charming. This is one of my favourite pictures of him. He was about 9 here, yeah, and he was mad about flying. You can see he's built himself a little aeroplane out of boxes, and he's sitting in it pretending he's flying.
How
charming.
lovely. And also in his own handwriting here, that's lovely.
So he was a very good designer too, and this was a little Wolseley Hornet he designed. Perhaps the nicest car he designed. I've actually got one of them. It's an AC, 1930s AC, lovely thing, and hope I might be able to take you for a ride in it later.
That would be most exciting. Gracious. Thank you.
Just a mile and a half away lies the motor racing circuit. Thanks to the vision of Lord March's grandfather, it became one of the world's most popular racetracks. Jackie Stewart, Graham Hill and Jack Brabham have competed here. Since 1998, when Lord March restored the circuit, people have come in their droves to celebrate the golden age of British motor racing. This weekend is the annual members' meeting, where the Goodwood Road Racing Club get together to share their passion for motorsport.
So I'm going to pop you in this lovely old AC of my grandfather's.
Oh, isn't that fantastic?
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? So it's a 1934 AC that he designed. So come in, pop it in here. In you go.
Wow. I think I'll ditch that.
Yeah, I'm going to take the roof off in a second, I think. So if you've got a scarf, that might be good.
I have. Woo!
It's
Just
quite
room
a
for
squeeze.
one little one. Thanks.
So find the keys now.
I feel a bit like the Queen with her scarf when she's rusty. Haven't worn one of these for years. There we are.
Perhaps we
Do I have a
set
prayer
off.
here?
Yeah, we hope it goes.
Just sort of tickle it a little bit and it goes.
Yeah.
Oh, that roar is lovely, isn't it? Great. There we are, we're off. There we are, up there.
There we are.
Let's get up to it.
The big cars are doing, they're doing 100 something through here. And I'll show you in a minute, on the main straight they're doing like 170.
I'd rather not.
You can have a go if you want.
Lord March has brought motor racing back to life at Goodwood, and two events, the Festival of Speed and the Goodwood Revival, are now an essential part of the motorsport calendar.
I think many people would like a lap at Goodwood.
That was fantastic.
Survived. It's one of the most exciting moments I've had.
Good, no, it was fun.
Which I tell the grandchildren. Lap at Goodwood.
I've heard lots about the innovative Dukes of Richmond. What about the women of Goodwood? I'm about to meet Lord March's sister Nimmy, or to give her proper title, Lady Naomi Gordon-Lennox.
Ah, Mary, how lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Nimmy, is that right?
Nimmy, that's right, yes. And I hear you've been having a bit of a speedy time, so I've brought a slightly quieter, slower vehicle to show you around our home.
I've been with your brother and he's been telling me how the Dukes made their mark here.
But I have to say that the women too found all sorts of innovative and creative ways to amuse themselves. And I am going to take you on a little mystery tour and show you some of the secret places that the public don't get to see.
Oh, that's right up my street. Were you brought up here?
Well, we moved from the Midlands when I was 7 years old. But Mum and Dad adopted myself and my older sister Maria in the late 50s, early 60s.
Gosh, that must have caused a bit of a stir.
Extraordinary. My understanding is that my mother was once told that she was sullying the British aristocracy by adopting black children, but I think that they felt really strongly that they wanted to share their good fortune, and if they were going to do that, then they wanted to adopt children who stood less chance of being adopted.
And what about your education?
Ah, well, that's interesting, because when I went to my secondary school, children used to really enjoy calling me a bastard. And I told my father about this story, and he said, "Oh, darling, don't you worry. If they ever say something like that to you again, you just tell them that the whole family is descended from a long line of right royal bastards."
Oh, no, the teachers would have loved that.
Yes, absolutely. So, here we are.
This is one of your secret places.
Yes, secret,
right.
secret. So if
You
you'd
lead
like to
the
come
way.
down here,
Yeah.
that's it. And it's a shell house. it was decorated by the second Duchess and two of her daughters in the 1740s.
And here it is, tucked in the corner
Yes. Here we go.
here. Goodness gracious, that is quite magical. All shells from all over, and in an amazing shapes and patterns. There are clams, limpets,
yes,
winkles, mussel over there.
Uh-huh.
But there are a few very huge exotic ones.
Yes, and those were collected by friendly sea captains who used to bring back shells for the Duchess and her daughters to do this.
Around 500,000 shells were used to create this exquisite shell house, some from the South Seas and some from nearby Sussex beaches. The workmanship is so perfect, it's thought that professional craftsmen had a hand in the most intricate shell work.
Can you imagine what the floor might be made of?
Well, it looks like marble.
Well, it's not. It's horse's teeth.
No.
Yes, horse's teeth.
Do you know, it's rather strange to be standing on horses' teeth. They must be back teeth, and you've sort of got shards of them, and they're absolutely flat.
And the lovely thing is that if we look over here, you can see that they put their initials. So you have SR, Sarah Richmond, and then you have Emily here, Kildare, her married name. And then over here, we've got Caroline, and there is Charles Richmond.
They're very intricate and very tiny. It's sort of a bit like hunt the thimble to find the initials, but you found them.
Speaking of innovative women, I would really love to take you to meet my mum, who is the current Duchess of Richmond, as you know. And I know she's looking forward to meeting you for tea.
Well, she's the same era as me, but I ought to do a bit of baking before we go. I'll take something with me.
If I'm having tea with the Duchess, who better to help me than Nimmy? We've decided to make a tea loaf, flavoured with the Duchess's favourite tea, Earl Grey.
So here, I've got 175 grams of currants. So in they go. You could use mixed fruit, but I quite like to put quite a lot of sultanas in too. So that's another 175 going in there. And then you just simply pour the tea over the top and let it soak overnight. That's it.
Lovely.
So I'll pop this at the back. So this has been soaking overnight. Now that's really plumped up.
Gosh, look at that, juicy.
Especially if you make it sort of midsummer and you had fruit you brought in for Christmas cake. It gets a bit dry, so it's very good for plumping it up.
To make the batter, add 275 grams of self-raising flour, and there's no need to sieve. In goes 225 grams of light muscovado sugar and 1 large egg.
And then it's a matter of just mixing this together, and it's easier to do it by hand because you can't use a mixing machine with all that fruit.
Transfer the mixture into a greased and lined 2-pound loaf tin.
And then I'm just going to shake that for a level. Now, can you go and pop that in the oven for me?
Absolutely, it'd be a pleasure.
That goes in at 150 fan for about 1 hour and 3/4.
So, I've popped it in the oven, and I've brought some photographs.
Oh, good. Let's have a look.
That I thought I might show you of how it was. Here we've got, this is a picture of me with my brother, Charles.
That's the present Lord March.
That's correct, yes.
He was a nice little chap, wasn't
he? He was. He was such a lovely, well, he still is a lovely brother. And there's my younger sister, Louisa, who's 5 years younger than me, and there we are on rocking in front of the house.
What are your memories when you were young with your mother?
Well, I don't know whether it was an instinct, but she was already by that time wanting to use organic and healthy and as unadulterated. The food needed to be as unadulterated as possible. I realised that if it weren't for the organic seed that she planted, then we wouldn't have this beautiful farm that we have at Goodwood.
And this is
Mum.
Right.
That's my mother.
Lovely.
She was also very stylish. That's my dad. Oh, it smells wonderful. There we are.
Right, I'll pop that on top.
Ah.
1, 2, 3.
Hooray!
I'm going to just tip it.
Okay.
It's still quite warm, obviously. That's it. There we are. So there's no chance you're not going to have any now. We've got to let that get cold, and then it needs cutting. And lots of unsalted butter on it.
Oh, lovely. I know Mum will love it.
She and her husband, the 10th Duke, now live in the Dower House on the estate. But I'm lucky enough to be having tea with the Duchess in the magnificent library at Goodwood, which for centuries the family has used as their drawing room.
If you'd like to just come through here. Ah, Monty, wonderful. Mary has something for you.
Can I leave that with you?
You certainly can, eh? Lovely.
Thank you.
Oh,
I'd love
darling.
to introduce you to my mother. Mummy, Mary
Mary.
Berry needs no
Oh,
introduction.
lovely to see you.
Sue
I'm thrilled
Richmond.
to be here.
Come and sit down.
Gosh, that looks quite high
Well,
on my short legs.
I think it'll give way.
Wow. Ooh, talk about sinking into it. It's lovely.
It's getting out of it, that's the problem.
I'm going to leave you
Are you going?
fine women to get on with it, and
Are
I'll
you?
see you later,
All
okay?
right. Oh, Monty, that looks really nice. It looks wonderful.
Have a taste of the loaf and
We
see what you
must
think.
taste that. Really delicious.
So this room is so beautiful. Is it exactly the same as when you lived here?
Yes, pretty much. And it's a very favourite room. Strangely, used to do yoga once. We had a yoga class here when I was here. And
push
we used
back
to
the
lay on,
sofas.
yes, and then look at the pictures, so I got to know them all quite well. It's quite a good way of studying them.
So when you and your husband arrived, what sort of state was the house in?
Well, it hadn't been lived in for 12 years, so it was fairly dilapidated. Everything had been stuffed in cupboards in any order. So I would open a cupboard door and find a blanket, cups and saucers, saucepans, a mixture of everything in it.
How
But
very
that was
daunting.
It was very daunting. I ended up having nightmares about cupboards opening and things falling out. But the serious things like the roof and the wiring and the water pipes, all those things had to be renewed.
Nimi was saying that the farm, it is you that started it to be organic, and that was well before any of us thought about it.
Yes, it was something I got very interested in. I read a book called Silent Spring by Rachel Carson, which has become a very famous book, saying how we were depleting the land and how desperately important it was we kept feeding the land and didn't just put fertilizers on it. And I decided that it would be the way I would go in my garden. So I started my garden like that. And then gradually, and then I heard of the Soil Association and joined that fairly early on in its history.
I would love to see the farm at some point, if I may.
Oh, I'm sure we can arrange that. And I do have some rather pretty bantams. I don't know whether you'd like to come and see them first?
I'd like to come right now. Is that possible?
Yes, that's possible.
Okay.
Let's go.
My family kept chickens when I was young, so I'm looking forward to seeing the Duchesses. They're clearly her pride and joy.
Come and we'll see whether they've laid any eggs today.
It's a positive palace for them up
Well,
here.
it's lovely, isn't it? I think they might be a little bit spoilt.
They've got sort of feathered feet.
Oh, they have very feathered feet, and they don't like getting them wet. Well, let's see how many they've laid today. Oh, we've got 5 today. So
They're
that
very
should be good.
little, aren't
They
they?
are, aren't they? I reckon they're about 2 to 1 hen's egg. So if you're cooking,
That's very useful, because I plan to make a sponge cake, and the yolks are a good colour, aren't they?
they're wonderful. The cake will be a really superb colour, I can promise you.
And that'll all be for the cricket tea.
That's a wonderful idea. Do you think they'll come over? Where have they gone? Go on, girls. Come on. Tuk, 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 tuk. Come on. Come on. Good girls. Come on.
Now, I always believe that you can use an egg as soon as it's laid, and the white holds together and you get more volume from it.
Yes, I think you do. But is that right? When you want to have a hard-boiled egg and you want the shell off for a picnic,
that's another
then that's another story, isn't it?
There we are. Shall I just hold that while you open the gate?
Lovely.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the farm. I've heard so much about it. The Duchess has arranged for farm manager Tim Hassel to show me around the 3,500-acre farm. It's had organic status since 2004 and now produces award-winning milk, cheese, meat and even beer.
So
That's a bit of a welcome.
So, Mary, these are our Sussex cattle, born and bred on the farm, and only eat the food that we've produced on the farm. Obviously, all our grass is organic, but we've also got the downs as well, which are natural chalkland grasses that have been there for centuries, and that's where the Sussex have been thriving for all those years.
They all look so contented and happy.
That's how we like to treat our animals from birth to finish, you know, really. It's a quality of the life while we're looking after them that's paramount to what we do. We move our pigs quite often, so the pigs in our system do a very good job of fertilising and also eating all the weeds, the docks and things like that. So we're moving them from one field to the next on a regular, constant basis.
It's the flock of Southdown sheep which have been here the longest, almost as long as the family themselves.
There you go. Hello, my little beauty. Oh, they smell lovely.
Nick Page started as shepherd here when he was just 16.
She's got quite a different little face here. So what are you up to with this?
I'm just getting her ready to take a showing. We're just teasing the wool out, and then what we'll do is we'll come along with the shears and we'll just take the loose ends off.
Right, now you show me, I'll have a go.
Yeah. Just hold the sheep's shears flush to the sheep. Just take those loose ends
girl,
off.
I'm going to be very careful because you've got... I don't want to spoil it. I don't want a hole in the side,
No, don't take any chunks out.
You're dead worried that I'm going to take a big lump. I promise you'll be very, very careful. Just along there. Oh, it's very like cutting a hedge.
I think you're better at baking.
Now, that's cheeky. That's cheeky. But I've had more practice at baking. You've been doing this for... How many years have you been here?
I can't cook.
The meat from the farm travels less than a mile to supply Goodwood's 4 restaurants. The final piece in the puzzle to achieving that is the on-site butchery, which ensures the quality of the slow-grown livestock down to the final cut. John Hearn is the master butcher.
I like the red kit.
Well, it doesn't show the blood as much, you see.
Oh, don't. Now, that doesn't sound a very local accent to me.
No, that's from Wales, South Wales.
So what brought you here?
Got offered a job here, thought, no, not for me, too far away. And then I met the Duchess. I met all the different people on the farm and saw what really went on here. I couldn't go home.
And her principles are very high.
She loves the animals, and in return, they give us what they do. And it's a chance for us to see the animals being born and being cooked right the way through.
Income from the farm and the estate's sporting events have enabled Lord March to build on the work his parents started, returning Goodwood House to its former splendour after years of neglect following the Second World War. I must say, it's wonderful to see the house restored in such style, yet it feels like a home.
Oh, hello, James.
Hello, Mary.
What have you got in store for me there?
Well, now you're in the yellow drawing room.
It is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
It's lovely, isn't it?
Totally yellow, but very subtle.
Yes, and we've got a brand new carpet, which we've had delivered literally a few weeks ago. So you're one of the first people to tread on it.
It's so pretty, but it's unlike a tapestry. You're sinking into it.
Well, it's got 32 different colours, and it's an exact copy of the original, which you can actually see in this photograph here. This is the room in 1904, and as you can see, the arrangement of the furniture was a lot more cluttered then. Anyway, we're just pausing in here, but actually the place I really want to show you is the dining room.
Talk about gilding the lily.
Well, this is the Egyptian dining room, and this is the main dining room in the house.
So why Egyptian?
In 1803, when the room was built, the Egyptian style was the most fashionable style. It all stemmed back to Napoleon going to Egypt, and he took artists with him who recorded what they saw, and everybody in Europe went Egypt crazy.
In Edwardian times, however, the room was deemed so unfashionable, it was completely dismantled. It remained a plain classical dining room until almost 100 years later. Lord March decided to recreate the striking Egyptian scheme.
It is enchanting. It's quite different to the rest of the house.
It's very unusual, and it's also one of the first Egyptian rooms in the country, so it is historically very important as well.
Talk of Napoleon has reminded me that Lord March promised to show me a unique piece of furniture, which is still in use in his private study.
Come in.
Ah, James said I'd find you in here.
Great to see you. Good. Did you have a good time?
I've been in the Egyptian dining room, and you've restored it recently, and it is quite amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yes, all around Napoleon's invasion of Egypt. And this is Napoleon's chair, actually.
Well, you told me all about that when we were having dinner.
Absolutely. This is his campaign chair from Waterloo.
That is quite amazing. And you can see it's well-worn, well-used, well-loved.
Yeah, many family bottoms have been in there. Have a try.
Well, I feel
Everybody does.
I feel very honoured. Sure, it gives you much inspiration. Mind you, I could do with a cushion. It's quite hard.
It's quite comfy. It's a surprisingly comfy thing. Anyway, talking about inspiration, I've got something I just wanted to show you. This is the small library, we call this.
Well, it's better than library steps, isn't it?
The small library was built by the third Duke, and its staircase and balcony were much admired and copied.
Yeah, we used to tear up and down here as children, always.
I can imagine things being thrown from above and thrown up.
Lady Muriel Beckwith wrote this. She was my great-aunt, and she was the grandchild of the 6th Duke, and this is about the 6th Duke's...
That's not so long ago.
Not so long ago, no, absolutely. And this was about the 6th Duke's famous French chef, Monsieur Rousseau. And she says here, I remember him as a sweet old man with a faint French accent who always wore his cap at a jaunty angle. In his sole Colbert, but it was a thing to dream of, she says. And then she also wrote this rather marvellous little book about her travels around Europe cooking, and it's called Tell Me Chef, and I thought it just might be, well, you just might find something very French and very inspirational, I hope.
Well, can I borrow it?
Yes, please do.
Well, I plan to go to the kitchen, and I would love you to be my sous chef.
No, I'm probably not the best person, maybe, but our chef, Lee, who's cooked he's cooked at Buckingham Palace, all sorts of fantastic places, is much better than me, so I think he'd love to help you.
I think it's a safer bet. So can you lead me the way?
Good plan, yeah.
I want to cook something smart but traditional with the family's private chef, Lee Clark. And I'm hoping Lady Muriel will provide me with inspiration.
Hi, Mary.
Hello.
Hi, I'm
You
Lee.
must be Lee.
Yes, good to meet you.
I've heard so much about you.
Oh, God.
And you have actually cooked at Buckingham Palace.
Yes, yeah. 14 years, just
Well,
saying.
I'm the one that's nervous now. I've just been looking at the recipe from Lady Muriel Beckwith for coq au vin.
Yeah.
And I was talking about that with Lord March, and it sort of gave me a bit of inspiration that I would like to do my coq au vin.
OK.
Coq au vin is the classic French dish. Rich and warming, it's made with chicken, a hearty red wine, mushrooms and shallots. What could be better?
So let's feel like our grandmothers used to. I can feel that's getting hot, and so I'm going to put that down. Bit of a sizzle. I can even turn it up higher than that. And so when you were cooking for Buckingham Palace, did the Queen ever come down and talk to you and say, oh, I want this or I want that?
Not at the palace, because that's really a working environment for the family. But when we travelled to Balmoral, she would come down to the kitchen, and the Duke of Edinburgh, most evenings when I was there, would come down because he would organise a barbecue. So he'd come and talk to the chefs and find out exactly what we've got, whether we've got a saddle of venison or a fillet of beef or anything like that, and then just create a menu from that.
Once the chicken is golden, remove it from the pan. Fry the bacon, then add the mushrooms.
Rightly, with a nice big spoon, if you could lift those out, put them on the second plate, and then I'll add those sort of 15 minutes before the end, and I think that will give the best flavour.
Brown the shallots and celery, then add 60 grams of flour to create a roux. Pour in the reduced red wine and warm chicken stock. Add a small bunch of thyme and season.
So how am I doing?
I think you're doing brilliant. If you want a job at Festival of Speed when we've got all these people in the house...
I'd be employed, would I?
Yeah, you can come and help me out.
Transfer the coq au vin to a casserole dish to finish cooking.
Then we'll put the chicken in. So we've got all that, and also you see there's a little bit of that lovely juice from the chicken. So I'll just tip that in. There we go.
With the lid on, bring the casserole to the boil, then reduce the heat and gently simmer for 30 minutes.
When you were at Buckingham Palace, did you do your own sort of specialities and bring them here?
Yes, yeah, there was one that I bought from the palace and bought here, and I'd like to show you that.
I want to taste it, please, showing it to me.
Come this way.
Goodness gracious, I feel as though I'm going into the lion's den.
Yes. So here we go, Mary. This is where I keep my secret stash. We've got flavoured alcohols here. The one I'm looking for, let me just see if I can find it. Oh, there it is. That is the recipe that I've bought from the palace. Here you go, that's the one.
Let me see. Goodwood damson whiskey. It looks as clear as a bell. That must be very potent.
And it's lovely. It warms your cockles.
And do you make it in the autumn?
Yes, and we leave it about a year. It's lovely. We should go back and...
Well, I ought to see how my coq au vin is doing,
Yeah.
so you come and help me.
The casserole's been cooking for 30 minutes, so it's time to add the mushrooms and bacon.
We'll just leave that for the flavours to mellow. And how about, are we going to taste that?
I think we should, shouldn't we? So this is the Duke of Edinburgh's favourite tipple.
That's it.
So,
And so, did you give him that when you were at the palace?
so this would have been made specifically for the Duke, and they would have sort of had that on the bar. Lord and Lady March recently went up to Sandringham, and they took a bottle of this as a gift to give them, which apparently went down a storm. So let's try some.
Gosh, it's a beautiful, rich, ruby colour.
Cheers.
So here's to many more years for you at Goodwood.
Yes, let's hope so. Thank you.
Gosh, it knocks you back on the smell, doesn't it?
It's lovely. The smell is fantastic.
I see what you mean. It's a real glow.
That warms you up, doesn't it?
It certainly does. One sip wasn't enough.
As my visit draws to a close, preparations are beginning on the pitch in front of the house for this afternoon's cricket match. I'm told it's the earliest sport played on the estate, and I want to find out what role the family had in the origins of the game. I'm serving my coq au vin to Nimmy and Lord March for lunch at one of his favourite spots, known as Carney's Seat. It was built in 1743, and only family and close friends ever get to use it.
I always love eating in here, actually. It's such a great space to eat in. And it was, of course, built for exactly that. It was built as a banqueting house. And so it's got quite a history for having very special meals in. All teenagers of the family always want to live here. Everyone comes up with a plan of how they're going to come and live here. And it's always,
So what do you think of this, then?
It'd be absolutely perfect, Mary. We might have to steal the recipe off you. So, Mary, we've got some rather wonderful documents and stories about cricket in here. But first, perhaps the most exciting of all, I'm going to pass to Nimmy.
Oh, yes, wonderful.
And the one I wanted to show you is a rather wonderful financial account done by Mr. Bradley, the second Duke's servant. And these are all various bits and pieces he bought for the Duke for cricket. But the The end one's rather wonderful because it says, paid for brandy when your Grace played cricket with the Arundel men, 1 and 6. And this is 1702, so it's really,
an awful lot of brandy.
Really early.
I think they needed 45.
And it says here that there will be 12 gamesters and that there will be 1 umpire of each side, and also that the wickets shall be pitched in a fair and even place at 23 yards distance from each other.
That's the earliest written rules of cricket in the world, 1727.
So this is immensely precious.
Well, since Goodwood has the first written rules of cricket, I'd better come up with something suitably spectacular for tea. I've enlisted the Duchess to help me.
I'm making a special cake for the cricket teas, and I've tried to make it as special as possible, because I know that we're starving.
My cricket cake is 4 layers of light lemon sponge, sandwiched together with double cream, strawberries, and a zesty homemade lemon curd.
I'm going to make lemon curd straight in the pan. So, to start with, I'm going to break these eggs.
You have to really bash them.
You're right. Golden, just look at that. And then I'm going to just whisk those with a nice balloon whisk.
Add 300 grams of sugar, then add butter and stir before mixing in the juice of 4 lemons.
This is the rind going in there. Thanks for that.
Stir continuously over a medium heat until the curd is coating the back of a spoon.
So we have a little taste. What do you think?
Really good.
And I'm going to just pour it straight in, and I hope I don't slop it all over everywhere. There it is.
The lemon curd will thicken as it cools in the jar.
So we'll just leave that. We'll let them get cold, and we'll get on with the sponges. So I've got my 8 Bantam's eggs. Can you pass over? I've got some flour and some sugar.
If you're using ordinary eggs, use 4 large ones. Add 225 grams each of caster sugar, self-raising flour, and softened butter. In goes a teaspoonful of baking powder and the lemon zest. Then beat until smooth.
That's beautifully creamy.
Then take 2 20-centimetre greased sandwich tins lined with non-stick paper and fill with the mixture. Bake in the oven at 160 fan for 25 minutes. Then leave the sponges to cool completely.
Right, I'm going to assemble this, and so I'm going to start off by tipping the top of the first one in the centre of the dish here. And I've already whipped the cream. And I'm going to spread that over right to the edge. That's it. Then I'm going to take some of your strawberries, and I'm just letting those peek out of the side so that when people can see that it's strawberries and cream. And then to our wonderful lemon curd. I'm going to sort of drizzle it. It's rather a thick drizzle, but that will just sort of add to the flavour. Then I'm going to put the next one on top of that.
Repeat the layering of sponge, cream, strawberries and lemon curd, and finish off with strawberries and cream on the top. Goodwood not only played a part in laying down the early rules of cricket, it was the first estate in the country where the game was regularly played. 300 years later, the home team made up of Goodwood staff is playing the Chichester All-Stars. And of course, it being Goodwood, they've got the most glorious cricket tea to look forward to.
I'm not going to drop it.
Layers.
There we are.
Isn't that beautiful, ladies?
I've got a special place here. And best of luck when we come to cut it.
That's absolutely fantastic, Mary.
Well, we've done our best,
Absolutely.
and the lemon curd is made with your eggs, your
With the Bantam
Bantam
eggs.
eggs, and you've never seen a brighter yolk.
It's an absolutely amazing
Had great
colour.
fun with that. So quite a spread, but I think everybody
It is, I know. All these children behind me have got their eyes on
all
this.
want to eat it, I'm sure. So fresh. If it falls apart, it's not my fault. No. It's your Bantam's eggs. There we are.
Thank you very much.
And do you like strawberries?
Yes.
There we are.
You've got lots in there, haven't you?
Are you ready?
I've had an unforgettable time from my thrilling lap of the circuit to seeing the Duchess's organic principles in action. This innovative family have kept their passions for sport and farming bang up to date, keeping Goodwood full of life and excitement.
Bye, Mary.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I've had such a memorable time.
It's been
Thank
lovely
you
seeing
so
you.
much.
Come back. Come back when you're not
Thank
doing
you.
anything.
Wow! Over the course of this series, I've enjoyed a magical insight into our stately homes.
And the whole place lights up.
And their legacy of delicious food.
It's really, really, really good.
From the glamorous house parties of Highclere to the royal heritage of Scone, from the secret passages of Powdram
I can't imagine what it's going to reveal.
to the sporting triumphs of Goodwood. And it's wonderful to see how the families who care for this heritage are keeping it alive for the future.